Today, we'll have Jude's September Disney World trip. That's coming up on this episode 378 of WW Prep to Go. Hello and welcome to WW Prep to Go, Retalk strategy and ideas. And we have lots of trip reports for people planning their Disney World trips. I am your host, Shannon Albert from WDWPrepSchool.com. Thank you for being here for episode 378. So we are going to continue our trip report series. We have a few in a row here, with this one being Disney World. I know we've been branching out and doing some international trips, Disneyland, and next week you will see a return to that. But this week is the good old classic Disney World trip from Jude and her family, who recently took a big road trip to Florida. You will see in the trip report that there was about a month between their trip and the post trip, which is not typical for these trip reports. In fact, two of the others I've done recently, I've actually talked to them the day after they got back. So it was really fresh. But in this case, there were lots of things that got in the way, like sickness and scheduling and that kind of stuff. So this one is a little bit more delayed than usual, but there were reasons for it working out that way. As always, a reminder to follow on social media. Please search WDW Prep School on all of the platforms and follow there so we can have a two-way conversation, particularly on Instagram, where I feel like we are the most interactive, and we do Q&As on Tuesday. It is where I am most likely to get DMs from so many of you. So I am happy to chat with you there. I think that is it for now. Without any further ado, here are my chats with Jude. Welcome to the podcast, Jude.
Hi.
We are talking on Friday, August 25th. Are you headed somewhere soon?
We leave next Wednesday, the 30th. We're driving. Sorry, I'm turning the volume up. We're driving through the night from Illinois to Disney World. And so we're leaving right after the kids get out of school. And we are planning to return sometime on September 10th. So we have a long trip.
Yes. And okay, this is not your first trip, I assume?
My husband has been to Disneyland when he was a kid. And I went to Disney World in 2009. So it's been a long time. And our kids have never been.
Okay.
It's practically a first trip.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of this is going to be completely new to you.
Yes.
All right. So the decision, okay, first of all, August 30th to September 10th, and you said we, and it's your family. Who's in your family?
So my husband, Jared, and then our three kids, Gage, Penny, and Cecilia, but we call her Cece.
Okay. How did you guys decide to go on these dates?
I'm remarried, and I share parenting time with Gage and Penny's dad. And let me backtrack. My husband also is an Air Force reservist on top of his normal day job of physical therapy. The stars aligned where we had this many days where we could be away. And it happens that September 1st is Cece's birthday. So she'll turn 5 while we're there, which will be really fun too. And they want to do Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween. And because since she could talk, pretty much Cece's been obsessed with Halloween and loves all things spooky and all things creepy. And her outfit she's wearing to the parks on her birthday is Ursula. So
wow.
Don't do anything.
That's quite a choice.
She is a whole personality.
That's good. Okay. And then the decision to drive versus fly.
A little bit monetary. I will say that because my husband is military, we could have flown Allegiant and it was really affordable and it worked perfectly with our days, but they only do one flight there and one flight back a week. Mm-hmm. And it's rare, but flights can get canceled or delayed because of weather. And in their case, a lot of times they'll just cancel if there's weather. And with it being hurricane season, we felt like it was better to drive. I've done a long through the night. We're driving straight there. I've done it with just the kids. It was miserable. I told my husband I wouldn't do it again without another driver, and thankfully he'll be there. So at least we will get to sleep on enough.
All right. So we've got, did you say you're leaving August 30th and arriving the 31st?
Yes. So
okay.
We're leaving after school on the 30th. Our son has sport pictures after school. And when he's done with that, we're going to go home and finish loading up the van and head out.
So that means you're going straight through, no overnight in a hotel or anything like that?
In a hotel. Yeah.
Okay. So when you get to Florida on the 31st, where are you staying?
We have a split stay. We're doing the Grand Floridian from the 31st through Labor Day, which I believe is the 4th. Let me look. Yes. And then on the 4th, we're checking into the Riviera, and we're there through September 10th.
Okay. You are checking in at the Grand Floridian. Now, how did you decide on those two resorts?
We rented DVC points for both stays, and it started actually with the Riviera because we went through David's DVC, and they had almost no availability for a studio the actual Sunday night leading into Labor Day. And this was back in January. So it had in fact, we inquired before the 7-month mark where it opens up. So they were pretty hopeful that we would get it, and nothing came up. So we went ahead and booked from the Monday on. And then I ended up in a DVC Facebook group. And I rented points through a gentleman who he makes YouTube videos, but I think he's a broker for other people because the contract I have is like not his name as the DVC owner. But he had 3,000 positive reviews, and in the group, they encourage you to say, have you rented from this person? And what is there? And he had great reviews. So fingers crossed, we're good to go, but everything's checked out in my Disney experience and everything. So we have 2 separate DVC rentals.
Okay. And with it being a split stay, how was it getting dining reservations?
Okay. So this was a little bit of a nightmare, and it wasn't necessarily the split stay because I was prepared for that. So they say you can book 60 days plus your time there, but it's per stay. So I knew for the Riviera stay, I would have to get back on and do it, and it was fine. But I got on my Disney Experience app that night, and it was July 5th. We'd been up late anyway, so up and early, getting on there, and nothing is working at all. It shows me the times. I go to book, and it says it's not going to work. And I thought maybe it's glitching. So I got on I sound like a Disney fanatic, but I'm in several Facebook groups of Disney people and trip planners. And I asked, is anyone having trouble? No one was having trouble. So at 6 a.m., I called Disney. And just so everyone knows for the future, if your name is not the name on the reservation, but you share a My Disney Experience account, for instance, you can log in and your husband can log in and you're linked, our reservation is in my husband's name. And so when I logged in through his My Disney Experience, everything opened up.
I see.
So that's just a note because I had not read that or seen that anywhere. I hadn't even considered it. And I think if he had never created a My Disney Experience account and I just handled it all, I'm sure it would have been fine. But because it was his name and the reservation was linked to him, the system was like, sorry, it's not you.
What's weird about that, though, is that we have a team, and whenever something comes up, we're like, hey, Thursday, I need to get this dining reservation. Anyone on our team can get it. Like someone on my team can get it for me. Yeah. And so that's why.
If you're booking like the 60 days plus. So it would let me at the 60-day mark for my account, but it wouldn't let me book the plus days.
Yeah, that's strange. Because it's his trip too. Both your trips.
And I don't know, are you guys logging in through the same account or do you all have your separate account?
No, separate. We're just friends in My Disney Experience. So it should recognize you both as part of that reservation and therefore valid. Anyway, that's a tangent, but it should work. Maybe, I don't know if it's something specific to
maybe because we ran a
DVC reservations.
Maybe.
But
the lady on the My Disney Experience phone call was really unsure of why it was doing it. And she was the one that suggested logging into Jared's account. And when I did, it worked. But they were incredibly kind and helpful. And because it had messed up so much, I think she took pity on me and she let me book all of it.
Oh.
So I got to book all the way through the 10th. I had very little that I wanted to book at the moment, like on the Riviera side of the stay, mostly because the Riviera has such great restaurants in it. And it's like the Skyliner at Epcot and it's food and wine. But yeah, I was able to get like Topolino's. So that was helpful.
All right. We have several days to talk through. So let's see what your plans are. On August 31st, you are arriving in Florida, checking in at the Grand Floridian. Do you have other plans on that first day?
We do. I'm going to be a zombie. My husband does not stay up late. He wakes up for work at 4 o'clock. So the plan is for me to drive till about 3 and then he'll take over because that's only about an hour earlier than he wakes up. So we originally were going to check in on my daughter's birthday on the 1st, but I didn't want to feel like a zombie for her birthday. So we're coming on the 31st and we've rented a cabana. So the plan is for mom to nap in the cabana and kiddos and dad to swim and play until our room is ready. And then we have a dining reservation at 50 at Ohana. And
So the cabana is at the pool at the Grand Floridian.
It is. And so you can rent a cabana or a patio there. And this was a situation where I found no information online. It was a Grand Floridian Facebook page, and they are very thorough on that one. And there are 2 patios. There's one at the beach pool and one at the 2 at the quiet pool. And then there are 4 cabanas. And the cabanas get you, there's like a TV, a safe. They provide sunscreen. You have your own attendant. There's a couch for her mom to sleep on.
I like that
I'm a bear without sleep. So there's a ceiling fan to keep you cool. There's a mini fridge that they stock with drinks. There's snacks. And then there's also a fruit tray that they give you in the morning and a dessert tray in the evening. It was not cheap, but I think I hope that it will be worth it. Just to have a place to land. Because we're probably, our ETA I'm hoping for is like 7:30 or 8 in the morning. That's a long time if our room isn't ready until.
Yeah. That would be nice if it was earlier, but we'll see what happens. And then you have a fun dinner at Ohana.
Yes. And I'm a little nervous about that one. I've heard mixed reviews lately about Ohana.
Our experience has been good, so hopefully yours will be too.
I hope so.
Okay, so the next day, September 1st, is your daughter's birthday. What are your plans?
We have park reservations for the Magic Kingdom. And I should say our tickets are military tickets. So we were able to get, it goes up to 5 days. So we have a 5-day Park Hopper Plus. So we have 5 days in the parks, the Park Hopper, and 5 passes for mini golf, foot golf, the water park, that kind of thing.
So your trip is more than 10 days, but only 5 of those are in the parks?
5 are in the parks, and then we have a 6th for Mickey's Not So Scary.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So this is one of your park days. Are you using Genie Plus?
We are planning to use Genie Plus on the Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios days. My daughter, who's 10 years old, qualifies for the DAS Pass. So we will be using that as well. So it felt a little unnecessary at Epcot and Animal Kingdom from what I had seen. So we're at Magic Kingdom for the morning. The park closes at 6 that day because it's a party day. So the plan is to monorail to the park for rope drop and Fantasyland heavy because she is a huge little kid. That's little kid central. And then we have a breakfast/lunch reservation at Crystal Palace at 10:45. We want to try the churro waffles, but the lunch food sounded better. So this was, and hopefully breakfast pricing be a little bit better. And then we're planning to take a break at the room. And afterward, and I should say that morning, I'm not planning to book much in Genie in the park because historically park days are slower days and we'll have the DAS Pass. So the plan is to stack for Hollywood Studios later because that's where we're going to head after our break in the room. My daughter, whose birthday is Cece, she is obsessed with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. She's watched the ride through probably 50 times. That's what she wanted for her birthday, was to ride it. So we're planning that's the highest priority lightning lane to get is Mickey and Minnie's. We're planning to just stack things there that she would want to ride or whatever is available to ride. And we have a dinner reservation at Hollywood and Vine for the Halloween dine with Minnie. Obviously, have to do the Halloween things. And that is a Fantasmic dining package. Then we'd like to end the night with Fantasmic.
I feel like you're doing all the things and we're only on the first full day.
It's a lot of things. Yes. I really felt like a beautiful mind when I was like sleeping.
Yeah.
I thought I was crazy.
Isn't that the GIF or the meme Where they're figuring out everything.
It's Claire Danes in Homeland, I think. Yeah. That was me. Yes, that was exactly right. I'm glad that you knew what I was referencing.
I can see it. I think Disney World planning has been that category no matter how you do it, but you have a lot of components here. Okay, that sounds like a good first full day.
Yeah.
September 2nd.
So we are not going to the parks on the weekend. It's Labor Day weekend. And I know last year it was lower crowd than they thought would be there, but I'm not going to bank on it. Since we're there for so long. And also the thought process was this is hurricane season. So we've planned our park days in the middle of our stay. That way we can move as necessary according to the weather. So Saturday is Typhoon Lagoon. We are planning probably to drive to Typhoon Lagoon. I'm not sure if there's a bus that's going there right now. And even
the bus is a pain. I would drive
to Typhoon Lagoon. Okay. So we are driving. You just solidified that. And the plan is to stay. We're going to pack a lunch. And the plan is to stay till 3 or 4, maybe. Whatever we can handle. If we're exhausted and we can't stay longer, then that's fine. And we do not have, my husband and our 2 older kids have a 544 reservation for foot golf at Disney's Oak Trail Golf Course. And foot golf is like soccer and golf together. My husband and son are big disc golfers. They're very excited about this.
I didn't even know you could do that there.
You can. Apparently, Disney hosts the World Cup equivalent of it. So they just had it recently. It's really big. And that is one of the things that you can use your Plus Pass for. So that was a really fun little discovery. And I've read on the Walt Disney World golf website that your resort will provide you with a taxi if you have a tee time. So we're planning to inquire about this. And if it doesn't work, then they can just drive because we have the car. But I thought it would be helpful to other people to know, you don't have to worry about public transit. Or no, Disney transit. Same. And while they're golfing, my plan is to unwind with Cece. That's going to be a very activity heavy couple days. So I'm going to give her a bath and kind of try to quiet her down. And we have a 13-year-old. So we're planning on letting them get room service after they all get back. And my husband and I go down to Steakhouse 71 and have dinner. And we'll see how things are going. But I felt comfortable with that. It's right there. It's on the monorail loop. And I think we could be back pretty quick if we needed to. He's getting to that age where he's starting to get paid to babysit other people's kids. So I was like, we're taking you to Disney. You can give us a date. So they're very hyped about room service. I think my kids have stayed in a hotel like 4 or 5 times because every time we've traveled, it's been to family or friends, or we've rented a big house, an Airbnb type thing. So the concept of room service is one thing that my 10-year-old daughter is very hyped about. So she had me print out the room service menu so that she could look at it in advance.
Nice.
They're very excited. And our reservation at Steakhouse 71 is at 8:50. And Stacey's bedtime is about 7:30. So she will probably be asleep, but I think the 2 big kids will probably watch TV and enjoy room service.
That'll be fun
for that day.
Okay. What is September 3rd?
That is mini golf. We have back-to-back reservations at Winter Summerland. So at 11 a.m., we have a reservation for the sand course. And at 12 p.m., we have a reservation for the snow course. Now, Florida just got out of this crazy heat bubble. And if that were to come back, we're probably only doing 1 course because that's a lot of sun at that time of day.
It is. I will tell you that course is pretty shaded.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure of food options there. So we'd plan to just pack Uncrustables and snacks and stuff because I didn't see that they really had much in the way of dining. I think they have ice cream is what I saw.
Yeah. I can't remember the dining options, but if you're going to be there for 2 different games, you might want to plan for that.
I was like, we need to probably do that. And I will say, if we are not exhausted and I hope my mother-in-law doesn't hear this because we should go even if we are exhausted, but we are planning to go to Mass. There is a giant cathedral near Disney. It's beautiful from what I've seen online. So we plan to go to Mass there if the children can be roused, because I think that Mass is at 8 a.m. So it's a little early.
So that will be before mini golf.
That would be before mini golf. Our Mass here is at 11 a.m. So that's an adjustment. And Florida's already an hour ahead of us. After mini golf, we're planning to, and we're driving to mini golf. We're planning to drive to the hotel and kind of recoup, refresh, change clothes probably I've planned 2 outfits a day because everyone said you're going to be sweaty and you're going to want a second outfit. So the plan is to just rest until 2:30 and we're going to go to Disney Springs. And I was told to park in the Lime Garage because everything I want to do is near the Lime Garage. My next door neighbor, hi Carrie, because I know she's going to listen to this. She's a big fan and they go to Disney like 2 or 3 times a year. So she was giving me some tips.
Mm-hmm.
We have a booking at the Lego store at 3 p.m. to do the minifigure experience for the 3 kiddos. And then we have a 4 p.m. reservation at the boathouse for an early dinner.
Yeah. We have a whole post somewhere to park in Disney Springs. I'm obsessed with it. The Lime Garage is definitely really convenient, but it's also really popular.
So it might be booked. So if it's super crowded, where should we park?
The next one, I think it's called Orange, but you're going during a time that's not so busy. It's not like peak travel season, but it is a pretty convenient place to park. 3 p.m. Lego store, 4 p.m. boathouse.
Yes. And then the plan is to just explore the shops in Disney Springs, probably get Gideon's cookies, maybe swirls on the water, but we'll probably be pretty full from dinner. And then get an early head back to the hotel because Monday is our resort swap day. So we're going to need to load up the van with anything that we're not using in the morning.
All right. So September 4th, which is Monday, you are switching to Riviera. And then what's the plan?
The most ambitious day.
Okay.
And I will probably be like, why did I plan that when we get back? So we are planning to be at Magic Kingdom incredibly early because our girls have an 8:05 Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique booking. And I'm thinking we're going to need to probably take the monorail at about 7:30. So 6:30 in the morning, finish packing the car, 7:30 head on the monorail to Magic Kingdom, and somewhere in there, hopefully get a queue for Tron. And then right afterward at 9:30, we have Cinderella's Royal Table for breakfast.
You did the back-to-back.
I debated even going to Cinderella's Royal Table. I had not planned to do the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. My 10-year-old, who I really did not think would be interested, found a video on YouTube, and they watched it repeatedly. And then took their new emails and made a Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. And that was just a level of cute I was not prepared for. So we're doing the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique in Cinderella's Royal Table now. But it's so expensive. So we're doing it for breakfast because it is high dollar. And then afterward, I'd like to go to Sir Mickey's, get some pictures of them in their dresses. I don't think they're probably going to last that long in the heat. So we're bringing a change of clothes. And we have and I didn't mention this on the first day, but we have 2 DAS pre-selection rides. Mm-hmm. So on Monday, we have from between 12 and 1 to meet Princess Tiana and Rapunzel, and between 1 and 2, Enchanted Tales of Belle. So just princess it up. Breakfast, so we're going to meet the remaining princesses. We're going to go see Belle. And then because we were Fantasyland heavy the first day, we're thinking Tomorrowland focus this day. My 10-year-old would really like to meet Stitch. She's a huge fan. And then whenever the room is ready, is going to be our time to swap and leave the park. So when the room is ready, we're going to get back to the Grand Floridian and drive over to the Riviera and check in.
And are you gonna tell me you're taking a Skyliner to one of the parks?
We are. Yeah. And I didn't want it to be this way, but Disney did it this way. The extended evening hours for Epcot are Monday night. The plan is check in, get organized, relax, rest. I'm hoping that in the stroller, if she's asleep in the stroller, I'm going to figure out a way to get her over there still asleep. And I'm hoping somewhere in there she naps in the transit because she's still very much a kid that's much nicer with sleep.
Mm-hmm. Aren't we all?
She gets there from her. And thinking probably dinner at Primo Piatto, which is a quick service at the Riviera, just to go. I know everybody's going to want to maybe hit some food and wine, but Cece has some sensory issues with eating. And so we have to be aware. An over-hungry child is a child that's going to have a tantrum. And if we get to say food and wine and there's not anything that she's willing to eat and we're standing in long lines to try stuff, it's just a recipe for disaster. So I'd rather get her mac and cheese or an Uncrustable or something before we go. So probably a light dinner at Primo Piatto. And we're hoping at 6 p.m. to get the cue for Cosmic Rewind.
And what is your sense for what your kids are going to be into as far as rides? Like, how are they all going to go on that ride?
We did Busch Garden last summer, and Cece was 3, and they have a Sesame Street place. It was Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. And she did fine on the Grover coaster. She looked like a ghost, but when we got off, she was like, I want to ride it again. But on it, she was like, but I really thought, are you having a stroke? Did I make a bad decision having you on this ride? So I think she's a little bit of a thrill seeker. My 10-year-old Penny is a massive thrill seeker. So she will be fine. My son, Gage, who's 13, and I both get motion sickness. So that is probably going to be the only hang-up. We did find that Bonine, the medication, is a little bit better than Dramamine. So the plan is to just take the highest dose of Bonine a couple hours before we're going and then see how we do. Cece is not tall enough for Guardians, though.
Oh, okay.
So we will have to do rider swap.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that, I know in rider swap, they'll let one person ride twice with the 2 riders. I'm hoping they let both the big kids. I've read that it's depending on the cast member. We'll see. Gage is not a thrill seeker. When we went to Busch Gardens, his favorite parts were watching Cece meet Grover and Elmo. So I think for him, the Crystal Palace reservation is for him. He loves Winnie the Pooh. He loved him since he was little. So he's more excited about pin trading and meeting characters. He refuses to watch any ride-through videos because he wants to be surprised. So he might just be motion sick. We'll see. He may learn that wasn't the call.
You may already know this, but when you have a virtual queue and DAS, they convert it basically to an individual lightning lane. So that should help.
I'm hoping that the lightning lane line is not too long for Penny's sake. What I've been reading recently is, I guess it's been breaking down and then everyone's going to the lightning lane at once when it reopens. I don't know. From what I've read, it's the best ride at Disney World. I'm willing to wait whatever amount of time I have to wait to ride it. And that is the thought process between being able to park hop, because I didn't want to go and, this is our only day and it's down. Well, we want to ride it. Same thing with Rise of the Resistance, because I've read it has a lot of downtime.
Sure does.
And I didn't want it to be we're not going to get to ride it.
Yeah.
Hoping for 6 p.m. virtual queue, probably head over to Epcot around 7:30. And then the goal that night during extended evening hours is to knock out the front of the park. And I know with the Skyliner, we're going to come in France, but formerly was known as Future World.
The non-World Showcase.
The not World Showcase land. We're hoping to knock that out, because my best memory of Disney was that I didn't know anything about World Showcase. And we just wandered around and were pleasantly surprised at everything, like the Pick a Pearl. And there were so many cool things. I really want that for the kids. So on our Epcot day, I don't want to feel like we have to rush up to the front of the park to ride Test Track or something. We're hoping to get it out of the way. I think 0% of my party wants to ride Mission Space, even the orange one or green, whichever one is nicer. I don't think that's in our plan. Thank you. My brain.
And it's extended hours. So you'll be there during normal hours for a bit, and then you'll be able to stay after.
Until 11, I believe. Right now it's showing 9 to 11. And we are on the fence. We're not big fireworks people. My son with his dad, they put on a big show on the 4th of July, but I think it is more the involvement and the family. None of us are just, oh, we want to sit and watch fireworks. So the first night we're there, we're planning to watch from the Polynesian Beach, the Magic Kingdom one.
Mm-hmm.
But for Epcot, I think, especially that night with extended evening hours, I think we're just going to try to hit rides while people are watching fireworks, since we're going to be in the park leader anyway. That's the plan, at least.
Yeah.
And then we'll be there. Hopefully we can last the whole thing. We'll see with Cece. She may be asleep in the stroller, but
That might be okay too.
she can hang. They say the third kid, if you want more kids after that. And we call her Mowgli because she's just feral and keeps up with the big kids. So I'm hoping that works out.
All right. So the next day is September 5th.
Okay. So that Tuesday is our Hollywood Studios Day. And it's like our second Hollywood Studios Day because we got a little bit on the first. Right now it's showing that park opens at 9 and we're not planning to rope drop. Every video I've watched just looks crazy. And the only thing I would plan to rope drop is Rise of the Resistance. But with DAS, we'll be able to just wait outside the line. And there are a lot of shops and shows at Hollywood Studios, so I don't think that'll be an issue. So we're going to have a slow morning. We're going to do breakfast at Primo Piatto at 7 a.m. I'm going to start booking Genie Plus for later in the day and stack. And then we do have 2 DAS pre-selects. So between 11 and 12:30 is Slinky Dog Dash. So that's a big one that people rope drop anyway. And between 12:30 and 1:30 is Toy Story Mania. I am not impressed with the dining I'm seeing at Hollywood Studios, and we'll have already done Hollywood and Vine.
Mm-hmm.
Most likely, since we're in Toy Story Land, during lunch, we'll do Woody's Lunchbox. I'm aware it's probably going to be sitting on the ground because seating seems to be limited, but we may go back to the hotel and eat because
You're just a hop away.
yeah, and it's so convenient and the food looks so much better and healthier. We're not big like fast food eaters. So my husband's guts are probably going to be bubbles by this day. The next commitment we have is at 6 p.m. and my husband and Gage have a reservation at Galaxy's Edge to build Droid. And
What time was that, did you say?
6 p.m.
Okay.
And we've read that there's like a little area across from it that you can make them run around and stuff. And one of your Australian guests brought a clear backpack.
Yes. It's linked on the
And
website.
Giselle, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I bought clear backpacks because we've read that they like interact. And then this is our like Galaxy's Edge time. The plan is 6 p.m., the Droid reservation. The girls and I will probably try Blue Milk or something that they want to do while the boys do that. And then we're in Galaxy's Edge until 9:45 because we have an Oga's Cantina reservation. And I'm thinking I'll probably let the girls build the cheaper lightsabers.
Mhm.
Is it Star Traders? I can't remember where it is.
Tatooine
Traders.
Raiders. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the plan. And maybe do some cool Galaxy's Edge nighttime pictures. My whole family is pretty big into Star Wars. So I think it'll be a good time. I listened to Marcus's trip report and they did the whole Star Wars day and I love that. I don't think that our 4-year-old loves Star Wars enough to make it a whole day. So we're hoping to ride Rise when we go on her birthday, but this hopefully will be our second Rise ride. And the priorities that day that we want to hit are Tower of Terror. The number one person that wants to ride Tower of Terror is the 5-year-old.
Oh, I was going to say, how are you going to do rider switch? But nope.
No, she's barely tall enough, like 1 inch. I don't know that I feel comfortable with that. She doesn't want to ride because of the drops. She wants to ride because it's creepy.
Hmm. All right.
We want to ride the creepy rides like Haunted Mansion and Tower of Terror. I don't know where she gets that. My husband and I, we love Halloween, but like the nostalgia of it, not like spooky stuff.
The darkness of it.
Entire playlist of Halloween music. I'm surprised she's let me wait this long to bust it out. Usually it's like the middle of July. She's like, it's time. We should start listening to Nightmare Before Christmas.
That is very funny.
I know. She's something. We'd like to see the First Time in Forever show because Carrie, my neighbor, said it's hilarious and I can't miss. Maybe the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular if we can catch it when it's not insanely hot, because I know that one's outdoor. Meeting Olaf and then riding Mickey and Minnie a second time is pretty there. On top of Galaxy's Edge stuff. And then that's pretty much it. I know that's probably a day that I'm going to say, oh, I should have planned it better. But every time I look at Hollywood Studios, I get a little bit stressed out because the wait times are long and it's really sunny and pavement. And I feel like it is going to feel like the most theme parky of all the parks, like the less themed of the theme parks. I loved Animal Kingdom and Epcot. They were super immersive. When I went to Hollywood Studios last time, Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land did not exist. So maybe that's where my thought process is skewed a little bit. It was like Hollywood Boulevard, but I just didn't want to feel so pressured. So we have a couple standing things and then it's what do we have time for? What did we not do on the evening when we were there? Priorities. So that's it on that day.
I think Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge will change your mind.
I hope so. Galaxy's Edge really looks cool. And I'm hoping that we can at least walk through Toy Story Land when we're there on her birthday, because we'll be there in the evening. And I heard the lights and everything make it really fun. So that was Tuesday. Wednesday is extended evening hours at Magic Kingdom. So that's on the radar. And our park for the day is Animal Kingdom.
Fine. We're going to Animal Kingdom.
What?
I said, finally, we're going to Animal Kingdom.
I know. My husband is very excited about Animal Kingdom because he's a huge Avatar fan.
Oh.
So he is going to be a highlight. The plan is to bus over for early entry at 8:30. And we're going to head to Navia River Journey to rope drop it. And then DAS Flight of Passage. Cece is not old enough or tall enough to ride Flight of Passage. So we will have to rider swap. And we have a DAS pre-selection from 12 to 1 for Cali River Rapids. And we have a 1 p.m. DAS pre-selection for Feathered Friends in Flight. We're all pretty excited about this one because we've been watching the Secrets of Disney's Animal Kingdom on Disney Plus. And it shows them training the birds for it, which is insane, the stuff that they get the birds to do. And then beyond that, we want to see Festival of the Lion King, do the animation experience. My kids are fantastic artists, so they're very excited about that. Penny is really into the movie Up, so we'd like to see Kevin, and we would like to do the Wilderness Explorer badge earning that you can do. I want to ride Dinosaur. None of my family has watched the ride through, so I'm so excited to see the reaction. Because it takes you by surprise. The first time I rode it, I had no idea what it was. We walked in, there was no wait. We got on, and it was like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. And I'm like, it's I know your thoughts on Dinosaur.
Traumatizing.
I think it scars you if you're not prepared for it, or you're like, and I'm not a thrill seeker, but I loved it.
It's on my list of 3 attractions at Animal Kingdom that will accidentally traumatize your kids. And it's because they will probably be tall enough for Dinosaur, but it might spook them. They definitely can get into it's have to be a bug, but they might scare them. Expedition Everest doesn't have that high of a high requirement, but it's very big.
Fifi is not tall enough for Expedition Everest. And I should say, she has watched the ride through for Dinosaur. She could probably be a Disney travel agent at this point because she's home with me during the day. I'm a stay-at-home mom. So she's watched like all of the YouTube videos and listened to all of your podcasts. So sometimes now my husband, a week before our trip, has decided he's going to learn about Disney. I'm like, okay. And
it's going to take a while.
Did you know? And Cece will correct him on stuff. She'll be like, no, that's closed right now.
That is hilarious.
So we are planning to do quick service that day. We want to do Satuli Canteen. It looks delicious and very up our alley. Also, the fact that they're boba on things is very in the vein of what my children like. And Flame Tree Barbecue is another one on the radar I've read is really good. And I really want to try the African corn because multiple people in your podcast have been like, oh, it's amazing. Yes. And I even wrote in my notes to bring toothpicks because I can't eat corn on the cob without needing a toothpick.
Your packing list is very detailed.
It is. I'm telling you. So after we eat dinner there, we're just going to head back to the Riviera and refresh. And we're going to put Cece to bed. And we have kids' night out reserved to come to the hotel from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. So Magic Kingdom's extended evening hours are 10 to 12. And I know we're going to need transportation time. So we wanted to have, I love all of my children equally for different reasons, but because she is home with me and I share parenting time with their dad, I feel like I see them less. And so it was a high priority for us to get to do just stuff with them without being interrupted, or she's cute and funny and adorable, but we wanted some alone time with them. So we have booked kids night out. I was between that and Storybook Nanny.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the one that was older. And I liked that they said, I'm sure Storybook Nannies are, but it didn't say on their website that they're CPR certified. So that's their plan for the night. And we have no agenda at Magic Kingdom. It's just whatever the big kids feel like doing, we're going to do.
That'll be fun. I think when you have age ranges that are spread out, it's good to focus on one because they're just in different stages and into different things.
And it's hard. Like when she says something cute or funny or little, like they love it. They think it's adorable. It's kept them young. But I know sometimes there are times where they want to do cool stuff and they're like, oh, CC can't do it. So
yeah.
And then Thursday the 7th, because I know I'm holding you up and taking so long, is our Epcot day, our full Epcot day. We are hoping to do the virtual queue for Guardians. If we rode it during extended evening hours and loved it, we will probably also purchase an individual lightning lane to ride it again. We are going to rope drop park. And I know we arrive in France, but I am a start in Canada person because it's the only way I've ever done it. And we are going to Canada. And in all caps, I say, head to Canada, stop nowhere. We want to officially start.
Wait, but you're rope dropping Canada?
No, yeah. We're rope dropping Remy, but then we're going to go to Canada.
Okay, I get that.
Because I just want it. The International Gateway is not an entrance I've ever been in, so it's always a choice. And Canada is the way I've done it. And you'll see why I did the same thing the only time I went. And we ended with a dinner reservation at San and Hell Inn.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the plan this time. So we're just going pavilion by pavilion. We're exploring, we're eating, we're shopping. The kids have downloaded the WDW Food and Wine app, and they've highlighted some things they would like to try. A motivator for good behavior and helping around the house. I made snack tokens. And so they've been earning snack credit. Snack credits is what I call them.
Like your own little dining plan?
Like our own dining plan. That was exactly the inspiration. And so they have snack credits, and then they have spending money that they've earned, and then a little bit that we've given them. And beyond that, they're just eating what we eat. So they can use their snack credits at the food and wine booth, because I think that's both of their plan is, we want to save them for that. And we want to stop the perfume customizing in France.
Mm-hmm.
I read that the engraver is there on Thursdays.
Mm-hmm.
They might not be when we go, but we're going to check because I think that would be really cool for my daughter. Cece loves Alice from Alice in Wonderland again, because that movie is a little bit creepy. The Cheshire Cat is her favorite, and she calls it the Char Cat, and we cannot correct her. And that's the Char Cat. Yes, it is. It is.
You'll be sad when she gets it right.
She speaks so clearly, and she's spoken in complete sentences since 18 months old. So when she says something wrong, we're just, exactly. My daughter was the same way. She called Parmesan cheese permanent cheese, and we still call it permanent cheese because it was so cute.
Mm-hmm.
So she really wants to meet Alice, and I saw that she it's Great Britain? That
UK?
UK. Okay. She's at the UK pavilion. Off and on, I'm going to check. We are going to do the Pick-a-Pearl in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I already ordered cages and necklaces for the pearls that they get because they were like $16 on Amazon and $100 there. And they're really cute. They're little Cinderella carriages. So they're really excited about that. My husband are excited about Viking coffee in Norway. And it's just World Showcase heavy day. We're going to use the DAS Pass for Frozen, hopefully ride Remy's again when we get back through there. We have a 6 p.m. dinner reservation in Hell Inn in Mexico. And when we're done with that, we may decide that we want to park hop to another park and do something again, or do something we haven't done. Or we may want to go back up to the Not World Showcase area of Epcot and do something a second time, or if it was closed or down when we were there. So that's our last full park day. So that's why we're going to play it by ear. And we are probably just going to be tired and want to go back to the hotel and go to sleep if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, that sounds like a fun day, mostly focused on the World Showcase.
I'm excited. My son, for fun, last summer learned where every country was, all of their flags and all of their capitals. He's really excited about the World Showcase. And like I said, he's not a big thrill seeker. I really love that about Disney, that there is something for everyone. It's not just geared to thrill seekers, because I get motion sick. Normal theme parks, there's not a lot I can do. And then theme park food is usually not great. So I like that there's a foodie at Disney, and there's thrill rush, and there's culture. It's nice. My husband keeps saying this is a once in a lifetime trip, and I'm already looking at GPC. So we'll see. We'll see.
Famous last words.
So Friday the 8th, we're going to sleep in, relax, breakfast in the room, literally do as little as possible that day, because we are going to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween. And that goes so late. So my Cece really wants the kitchen sink at Beaches and Cream. I would have loved to have found a reservation for her birthday. Beaches and Cream books up insanely fast, and I had the issue with booking my dining. So we have lunch that day at Beaches and Cream at 11 a.m. So we're going to go over for lunch, come back to the hotel, spend a little bit more time, and then change into costume and take the bus to Magic Kingdom around 2:30 to line up by 3. And this sounds like a crazy person thing to say, but she's very Halloween focused. So you can imagine who she wants to meet at the Halloween party.
That's why you're going early.
It's because you and everyone else that's ever been is like, if you want to see Jack and Sally, you need to get there super early. We're going to spend the first 3 hours of your party meeting Jack and Sally. And we all voted, and we're all willing to wait the 3 hours, because they were Lock, Shock, and Barrel one year for Halloween. It runs deep, and I never even liked that movie as a kid. I only like it for the sole reason that my kids like it so much.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so cute, and they know the words to every song. I think the Jack is going to scare her because he looks creepy.
So tall.
Yes, and his head is like an alien, so he can talk. But I've also read that the interactions are really great, that they spend a lot of time with you. So that's the highest priority. And
I don't want you to wait 3 hours, though.
I saw that you guys said like around fireworks and parades are also good times. I know that you can desk pass for Jack and Sally. So if we get there and we get in and it's 4:30 and the line's already 2 hours long, I'm going to get a return time. But everything that I've seen on the desk Facebook groups is that even the return lines for that are like an hour long. So we're just prepared to wait. I don't think there's a way around waiting at least 30 minutes to an hour.
Oh, yeah. You might have to wait 2 hours, but you shouldn't have to wait 3.
Okay. No,
but the waiting is, if you get to Magic Kingdom at 3, they don't let you until 4. So there's an hour. And then you can go, I'm including that. So then you go right to Jack and Sally, and hopefully you're at the front of that group, and then they start meeting at 4:30. Maybe you're done by 5 if you're lucky. So that's 2 hours, 3 to 5.
Yeah. Okay, good. That sounds reasonable.
I'm going to keep
there's no shade in that queue at the park to wait to go in. Oh, we ordered UV umbrellas. Our plan is them as needed through the day. We're going to bring those. And costume wise, we're hoping to do 3 meet and greets. It's ambitious, I know. But because Jack and Sally are so early, we might be able to make it happen. So Penny loves Stitch. So she's going as Lilo. We're hoping to meet Elvis Stitch, but I know he's very popular. So we'll see.
You can do it.
You think so? And then Gage loves Winnie the Pooh. And the Pooh Bear characters are dressed in little costume.
And then all day.
Ever. So he's going to go as Christopher Robin.
Cute.
And those are costumes that are not hot, because it's going to be, Christopher Robin is like a t-shirt and polo and short, and he can throw the t-shirt on when he gets in line to meet them. So he's only in one layer. Lilo is a dress, so that's pretty lightweight. And Cece is going to go as Zero. So she has a light up zero headband and a little collar and then a white dress. So all pretty light costumes because we really did think about that. And my husband and I are just wearing Halloween shirts. We really wanted to go as Bert and Mary Poppins, but those costumes are long sleeve and really heavy. I don't do well with heat, so we'll see. But that's that. The parade, again, the fireworks are not a huge priority for us. So maybe we can get a character meet and greet in during the fireworks, but we do want to see the stage show. And when does Jack come out? Is that the stage show that he comes out?
That's the fireworks.
Oh, so we may stay for those fireworks. I was thinking, I'm going to turn this light off. I was thinking that he was there for the stage show, for the Sanderson sisters stage show. Our plan is to do the second parade because everyone has said it's usually lower crowds as long as the weather doesn't look like it's going to rain. And our plan is to do the last Sanderson sisters. Sorry, the sun is setting over here and the last Sanderson sisters stage show,
which is almost at the very end before midnight.
At midnight. Yeah. You lose no party time to do it if you wait. And our kids are wanting to go to the character warehouse at some point. So we may try to make that happen. It's a little bit of a hike when you're already in the Disney bubble. And I think I want to sell my husband on Disney. So part of the reason that this trip is so long is so we're not pace ourselves because he will not want to go and then come back and go. We're maybe going to do the character rouse, but maybe stay in the Disney bubble. And Saturday when we are at the hotel, it's just a Riviera day. We've got one thing planned. We have a breakfast at Topolino's to end the stay. And that is I actually did not put that in my notes. It's in my Disney experience app. Let me look at it. So we are planning to do probably the Riviera pool and maybe some of the activities. I can't remember what the name of their rec room is. The Aventi room. So we're planning to do some activities in the Aventi room and whatever, maybe do s'mores, just a chill day. We have the room for that night. Our checkout isn't technically until the 10th, but because we're driving and we prefer to drive through the night because kids are not asking for 100 bathroom breaks and like they sleep the whole way, then we are planning to go maybe around midnight or 1 a.m. on Sunday and head home and drive straight through. But hopefully we're all very tired. It's at 10:40, our Topolino's reservation. Okay. We let everybody pick one character meal. And so Cece's was Hollywood and Vine, and Penny's was Topolino's, and Gage's was Crystal Palace. And my husband was, I'm not picking one because they're very expensive.
He's not wrong. But you've already got 3, so that'll be a fun sampler of character meals.
Trying to make it so that the sun is not.
No one can see it except for me, so we're good.
Okay.
All right. This sounds like a really fun trip, packed with lots of things, but also some non-park time, which is fun. I'm always interested in showing people what you can do outside the parks. So I love that you fit a combo of those things in.
I don't want to waste the bus passes. So we thought, and we're scheduled to use 4 of them, which I think is pretty good because we'll use one for each of the golf and then foot golf and Typhoon Lagoon. I am sad that Blizzard Beach is not open. We were really, when we booked the trip, it was open and Typhoon Lagoon was closed. I figured they would have both open in the summer, but I don't think they do that anymore.
They haven't since the before times.
I love that you call it that, by the way. I've now started calling it the before time.
Do you know why a lot of people created names for it? Because if we say the real name, things get demonetized. So if there's, for instance, a YouTube video or a TikTok or a reel and we say the actual name, they put health warnings and all this kind of stuff on it. And so it's easier just to come up with your own name so that, I'm like, if you're following me, the health warnings, like we don't need to throw it on every single Instagram story.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So some people call it the panini. I say the before
I've seen
time.
the panini.
Yeah,
but
but
I like the before times because it sounds like an apocalypse book or something.
I could feel that way.
But so speaking of the before times, we're just praying for good health and good weather. I know it's going to rain every day, probably. I'm looking at the forecast though, and knock on wood, my son would say that doesn't do anything, but I have to. It is looking like upper 80s.
Mm-hmm, I see that.
90s. So it stays that way. I will be a happy lady.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're at right now, we're in a heat advisory, and our feels like today was 118. And it's like an oven.
That's a lot for Illinois, especially.
We're Southern Illinois though, so we're like the southernmost area, and it gets warm and our humidity is always high. I'm banking on that though, because everyone says, oh, Disney's hot because of all the humidity, but we get like 50 to 70% humidity all summer here. So I'm banking on just being used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not Illinois, pull through.
I was pulling up the weather while you were talking just to see, because you never know, but you've got a long trip where you can switch things around if you have to.
Yes. And that was the thought process, right? Is if illness or weather starts to impact, yes, we would probably lose reservations for things, but for the most part, we could still salvage together a pretty decent trip if we had to. I don't want to have to, but if we had to. And then can I have my kids come say hello to you because they really want to?
Yeah, but let's finish the interview and then I'll chat with them. I hope you guys have a great trip, and I will talk to you about all your plans when you get back.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome back from your trip, Jude.
Oh, hi, thank you.
So I always say the date that we're talking before and after. In this case, it is a few weeks because of a series of things that have come up, including the sickness and schedules and stuff. But we are talking on Sunday, October 1st, and you got back on September 10th. How do you think your trip went overall, if you can remember back to the first part of September?
It was a lot of fun. It was definitely magical. Are there things I wish I'd done differently? Probably. It was a long trip, so I think by the end, we all missed Disney World very much, but we were also very happy to get home. Our house felt enormous after being in a studio for 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it went well.
You did come home with sickness, right? So was it you? Was your whole family?
So actually, the week before we left, my middle daughter, Penny, had COVID, and she was just the day we left. She was out of her quarantine period, and we had been religiously testing everybody because she didn't seem very sick. So we'd assumed it was just allergies. Pollen went from 0 to 10 where I live. Mm-hmm. And then she was bright red on the positive side. So we had been testing. Everybody was fine. And right before we left, the last couple of days, my husband just was like, I'm really not feeling great. But it was also an exhausting trip and a lot of time with 3 kids and chaos. So I just chalked it up to he's probably got something because we've been around a million people. And I tested him. It was negative in the hotel room. And then as soon as we got home, I tested him again and it was positive. And we'd all been in the car with him for 13 hours. So naturally, it was just like dominoes. We were falling. So we're finally all on the other side of it.
Listen, it's been a common thing recently. So the reason I wanted to definitely mention it is that anyone who is traveling right now, it's not like the old flu season where it's only the winter. Really, things are so common now. So
you're right. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. And before we left, a lot of people were saying, we got home and we had COVID. We got home or we were sick on our trip. So I'm just grateful it wasn't really hitting on a park day or anything.
Yeah, but we certainly have reports of that happening where people are in the middle of their trip and they're like, not what I do. So it can be tricky. I just want to throw that out there for everyone to do whatever you have to do to stay well and whatever that means.
I highly recommend if you're flying to mask because we did not fly. And I think that was actually our saving grace because in our park days, we're in the middle of our trip. So I suspect he probably got it on one of our park days.
Yes.
And then by that bookend day, he was down for the count.
It's hard because the way that the queues are so close, everyone's so close together and indoors, it's really hard not to. But yeah, I went to Hawaii just a few weeks ago and masked the whole way there and back, which is a long flight. But
Oh gosh.
did not get sick, was fine. Yeah, it can be hard to navigate when these things flare up. But let's start for the beginning, because you guys had, as you said, a long drive, 13-hour drive, and you started in Illinois, drove to Disney World. So how was your trip down to Florida?
So we had planned for me to nap the better part of the morning. My husband worked till noon. My now 5-year-old was not interested in that plan. So I was up with her. And then my husband got off. We loaded up the car, and we drive a hybrid Sienna, and the weight limits for cargo and passenger are actually pretty low because the hybrid battery is very heavy. So it's like 1,200 pounds, which sounds like a lot. But when you calculate the weight of just the 5 people, car seats, luggage, we were weighing all of our suitcases and we were smashed in like sardines. And I took way too much stuff. Lots of people had said, oh, 2 outfits for every day that you're there. It was a lot of I don't think it would have been if we had done touring the way I wanted to, but we did not. And therefore we were not at our room in the middle of the day to change and could have gotten away with less stuff. I had brought little toys so my kids wouldn't want treats in places. And then in the magic of everything, I still wanted to get them the treats in places and the toys. It was just a lot of stuff. And this will be important later. So we're loading up the car. He runs and gets the kids, and they just immediately like shower, get in pajamas, eat a quick dinner, and we load up. And God love my daughter, who is 10, because now 10, she masked the entire way there, just in case. She slept in a mask.
She's the one who was sick beforehand?
Yes. Oh. And she had just been cleared to go back to school, but she was still masking at school. And so just because we were closed in a car with recirculating air, she did mask the whole drive and slept in her mask, but she really wanted to go. And the drive was fine. It felt a little bit endless. I had planned it out where we stopped at one rest area before essentially bedtime, and the kids slept the entire way. And I drove the bulk of it. I have insomnia and my husband gets up at 4 for work. So we'd planned, I drove until about 3:30 our time. And then he got up because we're actually Central Time. And he got up and drove. And aside from, at one point I was listening to John Mulaney, and my 4-year-old woke up hysterically laughing for 10 minutes and then went back to sleep. But besides that, they all slept the whole way. And we only had a minor meltdown when we made it into Florida. We stopped at one of the rest areas, and having now stopped at like Kentucky and Georgia and Tennessee and Florida rest areas, I don't recommend Florida rest areas. They are very disgusting. And also a lot of them are outdoor almost. So we went into one and there was a palmetto bug. There was a big freak because they're very big. But besides that, we did okay. And we stopped at Chick-fil-A, got breakfast, and then headed to the Grand Floridian. My plan was to get there at 8 or 9 so that we could potentially make our Cape May breakfast reservation, but I'd canceled that on the drive down because the time just kept getting pushed out. And when we arrived, it was amazing. It's such a magical resort. Like, it's so beautiful. And this is a trip that was like 200 days in the making. And it just, even leaving felt unreal. And we pull in and we park, and we're 2 car parks down from this big van that had Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway on it. And that is the ride my youngest was looking forward to. So like my kids go over, they're like taking pictures in front of it. And then we're walking inside, and every single cast member we pass is, "Good morning. How are you? Hi." And my son, who's 13, was just like, everyone here is so friendly. And we're from the Midwest, so that's like saying something. And we get inside, and they're just so sweet. And they're like, "Oh, is it your first visit?" So they make our buttons, and they give Cece a birthday button. And we were in Big Pine Key, and I really wanted an upper floor because we were lagoon facing. And I'd actually read a lot of times, because that building is so close to the lagoon, that it has bug issues on the first floor. And I'd wanted an upper floor, but they don't all have patios. Some of them are just like a window. And so the cast member was really sweet, and she like called somebody and was like, "I got you squared away. They're going to put you in an upper floor with a balcony. We'll text you when your room is ready." And we had our cabana waiting. So the plan was to just go change, use the bathroom, head to the cabana. But while we were up there, we ran into a celebrity in my Grand Floridian Facebook group page. She is the greeter. There's only two, Randy and Esther, but Esther is a greeter. And to this day, my kids will tell you, Esther was a huge part of our Disney trip. She is the kindest, sweetest woman. Her name tag said she was from Mexico, which she almost sounds Russian. So she would call you darling and she would say, darling. But she was just loving on my kids and being so sweet. And she gave them all stickers. And Cece, my 5-year-old, has this like contagious energy. So she's jumping up and down and just soaking up the love. And Esther says, oh, tomorrow's your birthday. Come back and find me. Make sure you find me tomorrow because I'm going to do something special for you. So they were really excited about that. And we headed out to the cabanas and got everything set up. We had, I'm trying to think of his name. Barry was our cabana attendant and he was amazing and got us anything that we needed. The cabana was the perfect call. It was pricey. I think it was $310 after tax, maybe slightly less. But being able to just sit and unwind and we went during a not busy time. So there were still plentiful chairs, but having that privacy to be able to just relax. And there was a refrigerator there and a TV that I will never understand why Disney does not offer Disney Plus on their TVs, but we were able to cast to it. And we ordered lunch in the cabana. We played the pool games, which were very fun. The first one was lame, if I'm being honest. It was just asking the kids, okay, at this park, what's your favorite ride? And they narrowed it down. It was like a head-to-head battle. And it got to like the best ride, which I think Guardians won. And my kids are voting and they've never ridden any of these. And Cece's right at the front with the DJ, raising her hand at every ride. Just full participation with no idea of what's happening. And then they played a game that was essentially, okay, if you have this, bring it from your chair. And this speaks to how much I packed and how well we have gotten at doing splash pads. We are members of our local one, and I have got it down to a science. So it was your family was the team. You had a color. We were team red. And she would say things like, if you have sunscreen, bring it. But sometimes it would be obscure. Mickey ears isn't really obscure, but like pool toys or a Barbie, things like that. And we won. We were the winning family. So they got these cute little rubber ducks. And we were in a cabana. Our last name is Jones. And we were in a cabana next to someone with the last name James, which was already like similar. And my daughter, Cece, has never met a stranger. So she made friends with these two little girls and they played for a solid 45 minutes to an hour. And one of them was also named Cecilia and went by Cece. And she was the one in the cabana next to us.
What is it?
And she was there with her parents. And they were staying with her aunt. So they were in the DVC villas. They had a 2-bedroom. But we had a good time talking to them. And the other woman whose daughter she'd made friends with was from New York. And I felt very justified in wanting an upper floor because she had just been moved from Big Pine Key because her first floor room had bugs. So I'm not going to make everyone like terrified bugs happen. You're right by water. Mm-hmm. And everyone's opinion of what an infestation is different because later in our stay at the Riviera, we found lots of bugs at the Riviera and not very many at the Grand Floridian. So I just think it depends on luck of the draw and how much windows are being opened and doors are being opened. But I did feel very justified in that. And that evening we had reservations for Ohana. And I think I had told you we were on the fence because I'd been hearing hit or miss reviews of it. And so I'd asked the ladies there because they were Disney regulars and both of them said, we would cancel. It's not really worth it in our opinion. So I didn't cancel because we were really close to that 2-hour mark. And I knew finding other sit down accommodations was going to be difficult anyway. So I thought, okay, I think it's a lot of this trip I learned, it's how you frame your mind. So I had told myself going in, because I'm a perfectionist and very type A, moms are the rallying one on vacations anyway. And I was like, I'm going to bring the magic. So every step of the way, I was just like, look at this. Isn't this amazing? Isn't this wonderful? And it just fed into their excitement. So honestly, we probably could have eaten like mac and cheese and hot dogs. And they would have been like, this is amazing. But we did not. We did keep our Ohana dinner reservation. We checked into the cabanas around noon, and about 2:00, a storm rolled in, and it was heavy rain with lightning. So they evacuated the pool area, and we had just gotten our text maybe 30 minutes prior to that our room was ready. So we went ahead up to the room, and they said, with cabanas, however much time weather stops you from being in the cabana, they will refund you that percentage. So if you're there, if you're allowed to have 9 hours and 3 of them are taken, you're going to get 30% back. And they're supposed to text you when the cabana is back open. We never received the text. It didn't really matter because we went up to our room and kept on with our evening. But later I called Recreation Services, the direct number, because they had called me to confirm the cabana, and they refunded us 50% of our cabana stay.
Wow.
So I really was impressed with that. And they were apologetic that someone should have texted us to let us know. Because honestly, we might have gone back down. I think it probably reopened pretty soon after I'd unpacked. But we went up to the room. My son said, and I quote, "This is the fanciest hotel room I've ever stayed in." It was beautiful. The Mary Poppins stuff is gorgeous. The layout is great. That's a really big studio. We were in the resort studios, and it has so much storage. The closets are great. The drawers are great. The only downside is you have 1 shower for 5 people. But besides that, it was really well appointed. We had a great view. We were in 9307, and we had a great view of the Polynesian and the water. It was just beautiful. We could see a little bit of the beach pool off to the right, but it was a lovely view, and the room was great. It was super clean. The girls went down to the lobby with my husband and just chilled. I think they played on my oldest daughter's phone, and my son and I unpacked the room because sometimes it's easier to do that without 5 people in that small square footage. And then everybody came back up. We all took showers, got dressed, and we took the boat over to the Polynesian for Ohana.
I was going to ask you how you got over there because you had a few options.
We took the boat, and we definitely messed up transportation a couple times, but not this time. It was a great experience. It was beautiful. We got really lucky for the first part of this trip because the weather, that hurricane had just rolled through. And as we were driving down, we only saw a couple places where you could see it had gone through, like trees were down. One of the towns we stopped in for coffee had no power. So those were the only signs. But I think because a lot of people had changed plans with the hurricane rolling in and a lot of flights were canceled, it did affect it. So we got there the Thursday before Labor Day weekend. And according to touring plans, crowd calendar, and your crowd calendar, that would have been busier than the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday following it. That was not the case. And I think it is because a lot of people's trips got delayed or pushed back slightly. So the weather was great. We took the boat over. The Polynesian is such a vibe, which was really cool. And I had been on the fence between that and the Grand Floridian, but and at first I thought, I made a mistake. We should have stayed here. It's so relaxed. And my husband is a very chill guy, but it's so crowded. So crowded. Because I think everybody goes there for the restaurants and the atmosphere and Trader Sam's. So by the time we were leaving that evening, I felt like it was the right call to do the Grand Floridian because their lobby is massive and it just is not as crowded. I'm sure at Christmas time when they have the gingerbread house it is.
Indeed.
But
that's true.
When we went, it was not. And we checked in at Ohana. I had done mobile check-in, but I touched base with the person about to seat us to see if we could get closer to the windows. And the table they had us at was not at the window, but it was beside the table that was at the window. So it was perfect. We could see the castle from our table. And our server was great. I am in several food groups on Facebook for Disney. Everyone hates on the chimichurri chicken at Ohana. It was a resounding favorite amongst our entire family. Everything there was great, but my husband and son, they loved that chicken. The pot stickers and noodles, obviously, I wish I could order those from home. Like, they're so great. And the bread pudding is just amazing. And at the end of the meal, you are so full, but there's no way you're not going to eat that bread pudding. Like, it is so good. You would have had to roll me out of there without me
I always say, yes, I'm full, but there is a separate dessert stomach available.
What?
I said I always say
separate dessert stomach.
There's a separate dessert stomach. So even if I'm full, we can still proceed with dessert. So are you glad you kept your Ohana reservation?
I'm so glad. So I have to tell you, the entire experience was amazing. We tried pog juice for the first time. That batch of pog juice, not very good. We had it again later and it was great. So I've learned it's freshly made and the balance, I think, changes depending on how it's made. But they had just gotten a new ukulele player. So a ukulele player usually walks around. And by my understanding, in the past, it's always been a man. They had a female ukulele player. And I didn't even realize she was playing because she sounded so good. I thought it was a recording on the speakers. And then as she walked in, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a real woman. And she was the sweetest. My kids were wearing, my daughter was in a romper, my oldest was in a dress, and my son was in a shirt that my sister had all gotten them from Hawaii. And she was from Hawaii, the ukulele player. So she was like, are you guys from Hawaii? Because that's like legit. Those clothes are really like original. And I explained and she goes, yeah, I have that dress. I have a dress in the pattern of that shirt, the shirt my son was wearing. So that was a really neat thing. And then she found out it was Cece's birthday and she sang How Far We'll Go by Moana with her in front of the restaurant, which was really special. And obviously at the end of the restaurant, anytime they see it's your birthday, like they're just, I think she was given like 1 million cupcakes on this trip. There were so many sweets. She was probably 100% sugar by the time we left. But they brought her a cupcake and just our table saying happy birthday to her. But it was really spectacular. And we went down to the beach after dinner to try to catch the electrical water pageant. We just missed it. So we were trying to get on the monorail and get back to the Grand for fireworks and also missed it. The fireworks were while we were on the monorail, but it was fine. It was just my kids, even looking at pictures, they're like, oh, what I would give to go back to that first day. Cause it's just so perfect. And the excitement and the potential for what's ahead, it's just a feeling that's hard to describe. So we went back and the next day was Cece's 5th birthday. Mm-hmm. So our plan was they had changed the hours for Magic Kingdom that day. I assumed they were going to do it for every party day. They did not. It was just that day. I think they thought it would be busier than it was. So we got up early. I did oversleep my 5 a.m. alarm because I was just catching up on sleep, I think, from a 13-hour drive through the night. And we were headed to the monorail and security at probably 6:50. So we got to the monorail no, that can't be right. Yeah, probably we got to the monorail around 7. The issue we ran into with security was I did everything that all the blogs say you should do, hold your electronics, like the fans and all that out. It didn't matter. Even if they could see that it was in my hands, they would still check my bags. So then we got to where one person would take one bag with all that stuff in it that hung from the stroller. And then someone else would take like the diaper bag, things that had a lot of stuff that took a lot of time for security to go through. But at one point, I remember I went through with just a neck fan on my person, nothing else on me. And they made me go over to bag check. And I was like, I don't have a bag.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, okay, you're fine.
It's just a body check at that point.
I guess it was very odd. So security took a while because unfortunately I, at that point, was carrying the diaper bag and all. So we get through security, get on the monorail, and I want to say something happened that morning we bought Genie Plus. Mm-hmm. So we did buy Genie Plus for the day because my plan was my daughter is a DAS holder. Mm-hmm. So with the suspected lower crowds, because it was a party day, I had not planned to use Genie Plus at Magic Kingdom. I wanted to stack it for Hollywood Studios later so that we could get to Hollywood Studios and ride several rides before our dinner reservation. That was an issue because Magic Kingdom everywhere was dead. The Seven Dwarfs didn't get over a 25-minute wait. So when you want to do Genie for a park you're park hopping to, you cannot book anything until it's an after 2 p.m. return time. Mm-hmm. So I was having to kind of obsessively stalk Genie through the day to be able to book anything because nothing had a late wait time. Slinky Dog, nothing. So what I ended up doing was I just booked Haunted Mansion for arrival. And when we got there, we went up to the ticket window and purchased our military photo or memory maker because it's only $100 if you're a military member, but you have to purchase it at the park. So we purchased that. And then we, at that point, rope dropped the castle because I was like, there's no point in trying to rope drop anything else. The early entry has been going for a little bit and everyone was racing in. And we thought, you know what, this is special. Let's not rush. The kids are excited. So we got a cute picture of the kids in front of the pumpkins out front. And then we did a castle photo and we got as far as the Pinocchio bathrooms before we had to fill water bottles and do a bathroom break. And I used a lot of bathrooms at Disney. Those might be the most disgusting bathrooms I've used. It was like first thing in the morning and they were really gross. So if you can avoid the Pinocchio bathrooms, I highly recommend. We rode Haunted Mansion, and for my Halloween and spooky thing loving birthday girl, it was the tops. She was very excited. It was so fun. We rode Small World after that. And I was just dancing, or that's not a verb, but I made it one.
It is now.
Along the way. So after Haunted Mansion, I chilled with Genie because I could clearly tell I wasn't going to need it at Magic Kingdom. Everything was a walk-on. I had been watching times for months on the app. I had never seen wait times this low. So we just walked on to Small World, which I know that's not uncommon. And then we went over to the carousel, got on the carousel, tried to pull the sword from the stone, obviously unsuccessful. Has anyone actually ever done that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my kids were like, we're not worthy. Now, when we entered the park, I had done a DAS return time for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. And technically we should have been able to ride it after Haunted Mansion. But it was my first time using the DAS pass on the app. And there are 2 confirmations. And I had not clicked yes on the second confirmation. So actually after Haunted Mansion, we'd gone to Seven Dwarfs. I tried to check in. The cast member was very sweet and showed me where the error had happened. So then I started the wait time, but it was still like 25 minutes. It wasn't super long. So after we tried to pull the sword from the stone, we rode Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. And then...
Wait, that was... Seven Dwarfs Mine Train was using DAS?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we went in the lightning lane, but so I had messed it up. And after Haunted Mansion, we were not able to ride it, even though we should have been, because I had done it the minute we walked in the park. But it was still such a short wait that after 2 rides, we were able to go over and tap in. And then we came down over into Adventure, Jungle Cruise, and Pirates. And Jungle Cruise I had done with Genie. I had at Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, I had select Jungle Cruise, and it was almost an immediate return time. So that tells you, like, it was very low crowd.
That's wild.
So we did Jungle Cruise. We did Pirates with the DAS, but again, I could have selected that, and the walk from Seven Dwarfs would have been long enough to walk onto Pirates. And after that, we had a brunch reservation at Crystal Palace. This was a great call. Lots of people online had suggested this. So we paid breakfast pricing because 10:45 was our seating time, but at 11, they brought out lunch. So that was really great. I will say, getting there between meal times puts you in a weird rotation for characters. And they have a route that they go in at Crystal Palace. And Crystal Palace has 2 sides of the dining room. Mm-hmm. So we had just missed Piglet and Pooh. And the first character we met was Tigger. And my son, who's 13, has loved the Pooh characters since forever. The one from the 60s, he'd watched maybe 100, like every day. I can still sing and quote every line from that movie. And he's 13. So he was bouncing in his chair almost as these characters come up to us. And I cannot, I want to cry thinking about it because he's at an age where video games and screens and, to see my kid who's into these things be so excited. So he was just giddy with excitement. We got our Mickey Churro waffles after we met Tigger. And then it was time to meet Eeyore. And we met Eeyore. And again, it was just so sweet. And we joke, my husband is the pessimist of the group. So we call him Eeyore. So we got a special picture with Dad and Eeyore. And it was really wonderful. The food, none of these character dining experiences did I expect good food because you pay for the experience of the characters. And honestly, after the first couple days where we had buffets, I wished that I had booked, it's very expensive, but I wished I'd booked those more frequently, at least once a day, because being able to sit down in the AC at a dedicated thing and family style is great because you don't have to get up from the table at all. You don't have to walk your little ones up to get food. But even the buffets are great because they're eating instantly. They're getting that glucose boost. They're seeing characters. So there's excitement. They're not getting bored at the table. So it was really great. However, because we came in that weird time, I looked at our pictures and the time from when we arrived to meeting Pooh was an hour and 15 minutes. We were there for a very long time. I also forgot to mention that at 7 a.m., we got a virtual queue for Tron. So we did have that, and I had been watching the groups. It was going to get called while we were at Crystal Palace. So I asked them, and they said, just bring your receipt. They're really good because they know it's very difficult to change dining. So that was the plan. And we finally met Pooh and Tigger and Eeyore and Piglet. We made the full squad and checked out and headed out to Tron because our boarding group had been called. And we were going to have to do rider swap because Cece is not tall enough to ride Tron. But at that point, it was getting hot. The humidity was very high because of the storm. So once the sun came out, it was pretty rough. I will say, everyone was like, oh, the Florida humidity is so bad. We're in Southern Illinois. Our humidity is much worse. When we were at Disney, in the shade, we could be comfortable. When the humidity is high here, you're just drenched in sweat wherever you are. So the humidity never bothered me, but the sun itself is being on the face of the sun.
Closer to the equator.
Yes. So it was not great. And Cece had been going on not a lot of sleep. I'd hoped maybe she would nap in the stroller, but we were using a stroller that's not our usual stroller. And she had just about sized out of it. But it was very compact and easier to pack. And clearly we were sardines on the drive down. So our big jogging stroller was just not going to make it. So napping in the stroller was a no-go. And we waited for my husband and Gage and Penny to ride Tron, and I could just see her breaking down. And I was like, oh, we need to take a break after this. So they got off, and the plan was for me to ride with the rider swap with one of the other kids. And they were like, oh, Mom, it's amazing. Their hair was standing straight up. They had so much fun, but there was no way. So we just called it, and we headed through Tomorrowland. And on the way out, I had a DAS pre-select to meet Mickey at Town Square Hall. That's what it's called, right? Town Square
Theater.
Town Square Theater. Okay. So we met Mickey, which was really great. I'm not a fan of the auto photography. It gets weird pictures. They never give you enough time to just stand there and wait for another one. So it's whatever you're stuck with. Anytime we had an actual PhotoPass photographer was substantially better. I don't know if there's a place you can survey Disney about that, but everyone talks about Genie Plus. And this is the one I feel like is going to suffer a lot because if the pictures are bad, no one's going to buy PhotoPass. And the PhotoPass photographers, because we had Memory Maker, we were stopping at a bunch of them, and it was very slow in the parks the days we were there. And a handful of times we got photographers that were just you could tell they loved their job. So they would pose the kids and stuff, and those were always the better pictures. So Mickey has one of those, and thankfully I recorded all of the character interactions so I can screenshot from my recording, but it's still not the quality of camera, even with an iPhone. So we went back to the hotel room via the boat because that goes counterclockwise to the monorail. And the kids were not wanting to nap. Neither of the big kids wanted to nap. Shannon and I had to wake all three of them up at 4:00 because they were so tired. And I only got them to wake up. They're ready to sleep through the afternoon by reminding them that Esther had said, come find me tomorrow. And I said, I knew she was going to be there probably till 4 or 5 because I knew I'd asked her what she worked. And she told me she goes to lunch from 1 to 2. So I was like, she'll probably be there till 4 or 5 if she's on lunch from 1 to 2. But we were pushing it. So about 3, I woke them up. And we refreshed, changed clothes, and headed down to see Esther. And Esther made us the family of the day at the Grand Floridian, which was so special. It was amazing. So you get these big balloons and a certificate and special buttons that they've printed there that say family of the day. And of all the families there, you're the only family picked. And she was so sweet. And she said, I wasn't sure you were going to come. And they had suggested another family, but I said, no, they'll be here. And so we got to be family of the day. And we visited with Esther. My husband very quickly took all of the stuff that we got back up to the room. And then we went out to the bus to go to Hollywood Studios. And I will say, Esther and just the cast at the Grand Floridian, I'm sure it's because a lot of them have been there for a long time. I talked to a lot of cast members and they seem to have some really long-standing cast members. But that is Disney. That is the feeling when you're walking by. And I hate the way that people treat them too, because we would just be walking to our room and someone would say, hi, how are you? And I'd say, great, how are you? And they go, good, have a nice day. And then they'd have to stop and realize I asked how they were, because people don't even return like a courtesy. So I just cannot, I can't be more grateful for that staff. And especially Esther, if you've ever met someone that you feel like you've known your whole life and that is like almost a grandmother, that's Esther. Like, okay, darling. Oh, I'm so happy. You're so happy, darling. Like it was just, I wish I could just go give Esther a hug right now. She should just be available to everyone to make their day, because she does. And she was going to be there for our whole trip, except for the Monday, because we checked out Monday. So the plan was, oh my gosh, I want to do something for her later. And we do. But we took the bus to Hollywood Studios, and that was actually a pretty decent bus wait. We must have gotten there right after a bus left, because it was like 15 minutes. And that's pretty much one of the longest times we waited for a bus, but still not bad. I think we were one of two other groups on the bus. So it was not a crowded bus. We pull up, and as we're headed there, the other group that was on the bus, it was a man and his partner, a girl, and she starts putting her poncho on. And I'm like, maybe we should put our ponchos on. And sure enough, as soon as we get there, it's pouring. So we're throwing ponchos on, get off. We're at like the covering for the bus station at Hollywood Studios, which is not well shielded from the elements. And we're switching into flip-flops. And this is where the mistakes start coming. So I had been packing flip-flops because they were throwaway. If someone stole them or our stroller, it's no big deal. I brought like my UFOs and everybody's Crocs, but I thought I don't want to leave those in the stroller because they're expensive and I don't want them to get stolen. I should have brought my UFOs, because what I actually brought were cheap thong sandals that I had never worn before. I think you know where this is going. We slowly make our way to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which was our first stacked lightning lane. I had been successful in stacking some lightning lanes. I had stacked Mickey and Minnie, Slinky Dog, Toy Story Mania, and Tower of Terror. So we make our way to Mickey and Minnie Runaway Railway. This whole process is like 35 minutes. It takes ages because we have to go through security in the rain, and we have to go in the rain. And even though that's not a very long walk from the front to the Chinese theater, when there's a monsoon and people are leaving in hordes, it's really hard. So we get there, we have the stroller cover on, we park the stroller, we get in, and there are what was a very short wait time for Mickey and Minnie. I was very glad that we had a lightning lane for it, because it had gone up to a 2-hour wait because it's indoor. So everybody was just sitting inside of the Chinese theater. And thankfully we were in the lightning lane, so we went through pretty quick. It's an adorable ride. Cece had been so excited to ride it, and it did not disappoint. I had planned to get her something at the souvenir shop on the way out, but the ground in the souvenir shop was literally flooded. It was like 4 inches because it's low laying and outside. So we passed that. And then it was at this point, and we had I pushed it to 7, our 6:30 Hollywood and Vine, I pushed it to 7. And my husband and I are cheap. And this is on us. Just like when we checked in, we didn't have Bell Services take our luggage up because we didn't want to pay tip. So we also got rid of the Fantasmic part of the dining package because crowds were super low everywhere. We're like, that's not going to be hard to get a seat for Fantasmic. So we'd canceled that, but we'd kept the dinner because we were surprising her with it. She'd watched lots of YouTube videos of that specific dinner because Mickey is a vampire and Minnie is a witch, but she didn't know we were going. So we stopped over to see if we can push it back. we cannot push it back any later, like any closer to Fantasmic. So, but the guys, you could miss it and then you could check in and wait the walk-up wait time, and then we wouldn't charge you because you'd be here anyway. But we really didn't want to do that. So then we had to look at our options because Slinky Dog was still down because of the rain. And the rain had finally stopped, but everybody needed another bathroom break. And now we've all got ponchos and everything on us. So we go over to the bathrooms across from Star Tours. And those are actually pretty great bathrooms. And my son later was like, I'm really glad we stopped there that first day because I think those are the bathrooms we use the most. And it was good to know where they were. So we stopped in there. Everybody did a bathroom break. At this point, I had blisters on my feet from the sandals. So I had to change back into my tennis shoes, regardless of if they were going to get wet or not. But it was pretty dry by then. So the girls and I all changed back into our tennis shoes. And I think the guys kept their flip-flops on. And we headed over to Rise of the Resistance. And I had done a DAS when we entered into Hollywood Studios for Rise. But it was unnecessary because by the time we got over there, the wait time was 20 minutes, which is insane. And we rode it. My husband had watched a YouTube ride-through video with my daughter and I, but Gage and Penny had never watched anything about it. And they were amazed. It is a very cool ride. And I was jealous of them that they had not watched any of these ride-throughs on YouTube. So we get off and my son was like, that was the coolest thing ever. Can we ride it again? And we would have, because by that point, the wait time was 15 minutes, which is insane. By the time you walk through all of that, you had to have been getting right on.
Yeah.
And we couldn't because it was time to go to Hollywood and Vine. Our $100 Genie purchase in the morning had pretty much gotten us.
Mm-hmm.
So we did not do Genie the rest of the trip. We went to Hollywood and Vine. I have a video of Cece walking in and realizing where we are. It's pretty fantastic. She freaks out. It was as great as I knew it would be. We had a great server, but she was pretty busy, so she wasn't there a whole lot. And Mickey and Minnie were so cute. They kept a good pace, so we were not waiting there like we were for Pooh and Friends, which I'd been concerned about with it being so late and close to Fantasmic. But it was still a long meal because of the server being so busy. So the part we were waiting on at the end was the check the longest, and then getting our card back. But the food, honestly, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Very pleasantly surprised. I had not heard good things about Hollywood and Vine, and we really liked it.
It used to be my least favorite, and now it's the top of our list.
Yeah, it is excellent. And everything we had, I was a vegetarian for 5 years. I think I got thirds on pot roast. Like, it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
So while we were waiting for the check, the girls and I headed down to Fantasmic, and my husband and son waited for the check. And the line for Fantasmic, because they had not started letting people in yet. I've never regretted something so much in my life. Later I do regret things more, but we waited in this extremely long line. It was our whole evening. And then we ended up with like really decent seats, but my daughter has a hard time standing in line. So when my husband met up with us, he walked her around. That's why we have the DAS pass. We did get decent seats. I was really grateful for you guys and your packing list because I had a very tiny microfiber towel and those bleachers were soaked and we were the only ones that were not sitting in a puddle of water.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really great. It was a really awesome show. I asked Gage about it later and he said it was okay. It's the same thing over and over because a lot of the like projections on the water.
Mm-hmm.
But for a 5-year-old birthday girl, it was really special and she really wanted to do it. And I wasn't sure if we would stay for any other fireworks shows. So that was the good call. And then we bussed back and went to sleep with the plans of getting to Typhoon Lagoon when it opened the next day. That did not happen. We were really tired. We got there like 30 minutes after they opened though. And it felt very crowded to me, but the cast member at the front was like, oh no, this isn't bad crowds at all. I do think because a lot of pass holders are blocked out that weekend, I made a really wrong decision not having us go to the parks on Labor Day weekend. The weather Saturday, it was almost chilly to go to Typhoon Lagoon. It would, at least for the first 4 hours of the day, it would have been a really great day for Epcot, but it was also a Saturday. And everyone says Saturdays are terrible days for Epcot because it's busy.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. It's hard now because you make so many reservations that adjusting a day feels like a bad call. Like after our first park day, my husband and I even talked about it. maybe moving one of our park days to that Sunday so that we break them up a little more. And it was just impossible. We had too many things scheduled that couldn't be moved. So we did Typhoon Lagoon. This was probably one of my least favorite experiences. It does not feel like Disney. And I've realized it's because there's fewer cast members around. So it just feels like a water park. There are Mickeys in places. The wave pool there is terrifying. At one point, Cece and I got sucked under. Mm-hmm. I was sure that I was going to drown. And I am a good swimmer that grew up on the ocean. My kids, my two older ones, as soon as we got there, we were like sunscreening. They were like, can we go? Can we go? The problem is they're used to our splash park that we're members of that is small enough I can see them wherever they are, or at least know where they are. Typhoon Lagoon is very big. Mm-hmm. And with that, I would never let them go off if I'd known how big and scary that wave pool was. But I did because he had his phone in one of those little phone protectors. I spent that entire hour just like, where are they? What are they doing? Cece and Jared and I rode Mayday Falls. I don't know. It was a family one. It was fun. I thought she would be freaked out. She really liked it. And then we found better spot to put our stuff. There was like an awning that had things that was less hot. So we moved everything over there and it was closer to the food area. I don't know. I should have studied the map for Typhoon Lagoon more because you're not physically holding a map when you're there and getting your phone out with water around isn't great. It was a cluster, for lack of a better word. I only had 2 phone holders. So my husband had one and my son had one. So then we couldn't all get separated. By the end of the day, we all got back together and it was fine. But I don't know. Nothing really stood out to me there. The food was very bad. The whole experience was just meh. Like I would not redo it. It was fine. And if I lived local and just wanted a water park to go to and I could go frequently, it would be fine. Coming 13 hours away, very nice. So we left probably 3 and we had driven there. And so we drove back and then my husband and Gage and Penny had foot golf reservations at Oak Trail. And they, from valet, were able to get cab fare. It's like a cab voucher to go to the golf. My husband said it was like a sketchy cab and the guy was really complaining about tourists the whole time. And he's like, well,
why did you take a cab when you had a car?
Because it's nice not to have to worry about parking. And part of we realized after our second day of driving places, we didn't want to drive anywhere on our vacation. It feels less magical when you're getting in your car and going to do something. It feels more like a chore that you would do at home than an experience. And
that is exactly how I feel. And some people are so the opposite. They love having a car.
And then we would miss a turn or something because things are very poorly labeled at Disney. I've learned the sign will point one direction, but you'll actually need to go the other direction. And when we get to Riviera, I have a great example of this. Yeah, we just were already not fans of driving. So we just wanted to see if it was available. It was. So they called the cab for us, gave them a voucher for the return fare, including tip. So we were not, on the hook for anything. So it was a good experience. My husband was like, I don't know if I would want to take Cece, but like for the 3 of them, it was fine. They went. We had gotten notice that the ground had just been aerated. So the experience for them, they said they had fun. My son, apparently multiple times while kicking the ball, was wearing like looser fitting shorts and his phone hit him in not a great place. So I have a couple of really funny pictures of him just keeled over. But they had a good time. All of them said it was a one and done. Maybe if it had not been so bouncy, but the ball just was not wanting to go anywhere. And my husband said, oh my gosh, it was so expensive. But I reminded him that like we had used the plus passes. So it wasn't a big deal. But he was saying normally it's $35 a person for the tea time. And I don't know. I think if you went and the ground wasn't bouncy, like they hadn't just aerated it and it was cool weather, it could be a fun thing to do on a down day. But we had just spent the entire first part of the day at Typhoon Lagoon, so they were all tired anyway. So while they were gone, Cece and I just had a good time. I had bought the girls the Little Mermaid bubble wands on Shop Disney. I highly recommend buying your bubble wands on Shop Disney if you can, because they were like $40 in the park. And I think I paid with coupon like $22 on Shop Disney. And we stood in that courtyard for 30 minutes blowing that Little Mermaid bubble wand. And then she made a friend with a little boy who just wanted to eat the bubbles. So she just blew them while the little boy ate. It's these like little moments that the kids really loved the most. And as a parent, just watching them, you love them the most. Also, Typhoon Lagoon, to circle back, if you have kids of different ages, that is not the place to go. Cece wanted to sit and dig in the sand, and the big kids wanted to ride really fast slides that Cece couldn't go on. So that was also stressful. And a couple of times we run into that. Now, when we were packing to go, we were unsure if the school, because we missed a week of school to do this, was going to give work ahead of time. Penny's teacher had made it clear she would have time to make it up when she get back, and she doesn't give work in advance. The middle school teachers for Gage had not been as clear about it. So I assumed it would be the same situation. He came home the day we were going to leave with tons of schoolwork. And then a note that said, make sure you bring your laptop. We're going to email you work every day of the trip. Yeah. So in our very tight quarters for the van, I can't explain how tight it was. Penny had to take her shoes off to get in her seat because there was a suitcase under her feet to prop her feet up. It was very tight. His math binder was 3 inches. I said, I'll give you a folder, pull out any math papers you need, bring that instead, because we don't have room for the binder. He did not bring all of the papers he needed. So as the trip goes on, he gets more and more stressed about school. And he does a thing where he disassociates and gets on his. So it took me a couple days of him constantly getting on his phone and me being frustrated. We're in a magical place. Why are you on your phone? To realize, oh, he's stressed about school. Once we got to the end of that, it worked out. While Cece and I were there alone, she was hungry. So we went to Gasparilla's and got what DFB Guide says is the best mac and cheese on property. They are right, in my opinion. It is very good. So she had a great dinner. And then we went back up to our room, and in our room was a Mickey celebration cake with a card from Esther that said happy birthday. And those are like $40 cakes. So I send my husband a picture of it and I'm like, this is so sweet. We need to thank Esther. Can you stop and get a piece of computer paper from front desk when you come up? And what they actually gave him was some sort of printed cast compliment thing. Mm-hmm. And we filled it out. And on the back, Cece drew a picture of Mickey fighting Maleficent from Fantastic, and tucked that away to give her the next day because we knew it'd be our last day to catch her. And then Cece was pretty much ready for bed when they got back. Gage and Penny showered and ordered room service. And we got them all squared away. Room service messed up one of the orders. So we actually canceled our Steakhouse 71 reservation because it was just getting really tight on time and we weren't sure that we would make it. And I wanted to watch the fireworks with him from the resort, and our reservation was just smack dab in the fireworks time. I canceled that. And just a note to people, we were actually outside of that 2-hour window, but I called Disney and they were very gracious and waived the fees to cancel it. So it always helps to talk to an actual person. I'd always read that, but it really does. We experienced that too. So once we got the correct dining order, Penny played on her phone, Cece was asleep, and Gage worked on homework. And so that's why I bring up the homework, because he was actually very stressed when we left that evening. He was not sure he'd be able to do much of the work that he'd been given so far. My husband and I went down and we watched the fireworks. We wavered. We're like, do we try to make it to the Polynesian to watch the fireworks? Because we decided to go to Tambu Lounge and order pot stickers and noodles and bread pudding from Ohana and have a drink. But we ultimately decided to watch them from the Grand Floridian. And it's very limited view from the Grand Floridian right now because they have scaffolding up outside of Gasparilla's. So you can't sit there. And then there was wedding photos being taken on the big landing pad. So you were at the mercy of the two sides, which were very crowded, but we went all the way down to one, and there was just one other family there, and they had 2 kids that reminded me of my 2 older kids, just younger. So it was really sweet. And we started talking to them and got to know them. They were really lovely. And they come twice a year. They're Florida residents. So they have all these tips, and they were giving them to us. And then we raced over to the boat after the fireworks, which was just wonderful to watch together. We were very rarely afforded time alone together, and missed the boat by literally seconds. We watched it pull away, and they're like 20 minutes apart. So we thought, it's fine. We can either wait for the boat and maybe miss food at Tambu Lounge because they only serve till 10, or we could try to take the monorail. And we're stupid. And we tried to take the monorail, which was the wrong call because we'd never taken the monorail from that direction past Magic Kingdom. And I forgot it also stops at the Transportation and Ticket Center.
Mm-hmm.
And it was post fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like wall-to-wall sweaty bodies of people that are just dead. And we're here in our like magical, happy, like moment of loving each other. And we like just watched these fireworks and had this like great evening together. And it was sucking the oxygen out of the moment. But
Is the walking path between the Grand Floridian and Polynesian open?
It is. But my blisters from that first day, and this becomes a common theme. It got to the point by Sunday that my entire pinky toe, the bottom of both of them, was one large blister.
Yeah.
Yes. It was really gross and really painful. So we'd considered walking, but I also wasn't sure how fast I could walk with that.
Yeah. It would take a few minutes.
Yes. And anyway, we get there and it's like 1 minute. I'm like, did we miss ordering food? And the guy was like, let me see. What did you want to order? And we told him. And he went ahead and put in the order with Ohana and then seated us. And I think the bread pudding came out first. It just came out however it was going to come out, but it was really good. And looking back, I didn't realize the table beside us had also done that. But on top of it, they had done a mobile order from Captain Cook's and brought that up to Tambu Lounge. I wasn't sure if you could do that. You can. So they had done like the wonton pork nachos. So great bar food. Even if you miss the actual food at Tambu Lounge, you could still go up and have a drink and mobile order. And it's that short little walk down to pick up your food. So it was just a really nice night. We went over a game plan for the next day and then went back and went to bed. And on Sunday was our mini golf. And we were supposed to do an 11 a.m. sand and a 12 p.m. snow. And we just slept really late in the morning. We're like, I'm not loving the idea of rushing out again. It just felt like we were rushing and rushing. Penny really wanted to go to Basin. It was in the top list of things she wanted to do.
At the resort?
Yes.
Okay.
It's so fun. She and Cece made candles. They bought bath bombs. They filled a tube with bath bomb. They got bath salts that you could fill in a tube. So lots of choices. It was just great. While we were there, Gage and Jared played giant chess outside. We stopped at the gift shop. I bought bubble wand refills because it's a specific kind of bubble fluid for those wands. So if you buy one at Disney, stock up on the fluid before you go home. That is a takeaway here because it is not orderable online. And I even have the bottle. So I tried finding. You can only order it in bulk for resale, and it's 1,000 bottles. It's the bulk size. But yeah. So anyway, we did that and then decided we're just going to eat lunch at the resort. So we went to Gasparilla's. We ordered lunch, which again was really good and very affordable if you consider how expensive Disney is. And it was not totally unhealthy options. And then I canceled our first reservation, and I actually canceled both reservations because I had written down the wrong times. I'd written down 12 and 1 or 11 and 1, 12. It was actually 10 and 11.
Okay. Yeah. I had written down 11 and 12 from your pre-trip.
Yes. So that's what I had. I'd even typed it up. And it may be that was what was discussed on the phone because it's happened a couple times when I talk to them and then they tell you so many times available that I think everyone gets confused. I canceled both and they said, oh, you could just show up. So I was really on the fence of if I even wanted to go. We were having such a really lovely morning at the resort, but we did. We went. The kids had a little bit of a meltdown I need to walk this back actually. Before the girls and I headed to Basin, we delivered that letter to Esther that we had made for her. And it was a really sweet moment. She loved on the girls. And then I could see her showing it to the front desk because I think you have to turn them in, actually. I think it goes through Disney. And the girls and I were just having this beautiful moment. Like I was spinning them in this beautiful lobby. It's funny because the stuff I think about isn't like the rides or anything. It's like twirling my girls in the Grand Floridian lobby or Esther giving them hugs. And she was just so sweet. And it was our last time that we were going to get to see her. Now, moving forward, we're at lunch. We've made the decision to cancel the 2 reservations, but we're still going to go. And everyone was melting down, needed bathroom breaks. So we were really close to the room. I think some of us went up, some of us just used the restroom at Gasparilla's. But when I went up to the room, there was a gift bag in the room with a big box of Halloween chocolate bricks and a board game, like the Walt Disney World board game, and a card that said, "Thank you for being such wonderful guests," from the Grand Floridian front desk. And I have to tell you, it really is the cast members. I cannot more highly recommend the Grand Floridian, and I know it's expensive, but they still have the Disney magic. And I do think it's because their cast members have just been there so long. That was the Disney standard for so long. That's just how they operate. The Riviera was not that experience for us. And it's also a deluxe resort. And I'll get to that later. But we headed to mini golf and we played the snow. It was very cute. We had a lot of fun. It was very hot, so we were really trying to stay in the shade and we were staying hydrated. But there were a lot of areas, like at each hole, there was a shady-ish spot you could get in. It wasn't just blaring parking lot sun. And every hole did something. So sometimes like Sienna would pop out of a chimney, or sometimes it would be like, oh, and all of us got hole-in-ones at different points, even Cece. So that was really fun. She got her first hole-in-one there. And it was just a really fun experience. But it was late, and the plan was not to head straight to Disney Springs for the Lego store. It was to go back to the hotel first. So we did. We went back to the hotel, quickly changed into what we were going to wear to Disney Springs, and just refreshed and rushed back out to Disney Springs because we had this 3 p.m. Lego minifigure building. And we get there like to Disney Springs in a decent amount of time because we'd driven. I regretted not taking the bus because everything had said Lime Garage. The giant sign for Lime Garage says Lime Garage closed. And later we realized it had 200 spots available. I don't know why it was saying closed. So even if it says closed, it's still worth checking because there still might be spot. It lights up. It tells you how many spots there are. So you won't waste your time because you'll just drive right by it. But we were like, of course, this giant sign that says closed is going to be accurate. So then we started searching, tried to do grapefruit. We were like, missed it. Then we turned around to do grapefruit. We're on the wrong side. So we did orange. And it ended up being really far away. It was like more like by the Coca-Cola store. And again, blisters, feet, really hurting. And we're not very far into our trip right now. So we go in and go to the Lego store, which has an hour wait to get in. But I asked at the front, I said, we had a minifigure building experience. So they actually had me go in the exit for that. And they checked us in and walked us over to the minifigure area. And that was so much fun. I didn't make one. I helped Cece, but my husband and Gage and Penny and Cece all made one. And those were such great souvenirs. They were $13, but the whole experience was so fun. And you could draw on it and layer backgrounds. And even my husband got really into it. He's a doctor, but he's very artistic. So he was having fun with the layout, and it's super dad with his coffee mug and his tool bag. But they were so fun, and we had a great time. But we had a 4 p.m. reservation for the boat that I had not canceled. And we were really on the fence if we wanted to keep it, but Disney Springs was packed. Shoulder to shoulder people. The girl at the Lego store actually told me Sunday's a terrible time to go there because a lot of people arrive or depart on Sundays. So they will do Disney Springs on their arrival and departure days. So note to self. And I assume Saturday would have been the worst day, but she said Sundays are actually worse than Saturdays a lot of times. Has that been your experience too?
Yeah, just weekends in general. I think locals go there.
People are out of work, out of school. It's not just vacationers. It was so busy. And by this point, we had spent a lot of money on several sit-down meals. with characters. Our first park experience, I think we'd spent like $800 that day on all the sit down dining and stuff and Genie. And my husband was like, I do not want to spend the prices at the boathouse, but we couldn't cancel. And actually, if we had gotten there, they probably would have just said, okay, you're fine. But everybody was hungry. We all needed an AC break. We'd been rushing for an hour and a half straight and it was crowds. So we stayed and it was a great meal. I really wanted the lobster roll. I got the lobster roll. It was a tiny lobster roll for $35. I do not recommend the lobster roll. Itty bitty baby amount of lobster. I'm sure it used to be very big, but now that everything is so expensive, it has shrunk. It is not a great size. The French fries were delicious. I actually shared the lobster roll with my husband and lobster bisque soup. Now, the lobster bisque was spectacular. Penny had always wanted to try lobster bisque because some kind of weird YouTube video where this guy makes bisques that she'd watched many years ago. I don't know. Kids on YouTube are weird. But she got her lobster bisque, loved it. The experience was great overall, but I could tell all of the things my husband hates were happening. Money spending, crowds, anxious wife trying to get places, kids melting down. And we walk past Raglan Road and a breeze comes through and there's Irish music playing. And he goes, oh, this would be such a great day to sit outside and listen to music. And I look at him and I said, you should. We were headed to World of Disney. That is his personal nightmare. I said, you should go sit, have a beer. Please, this is your vacation too. Go enjoy yourself. And he's, are you sure you really don't mind? I'm like, oh, I'm going to be anxious that you're stressed out from lights. Like, I would feel better knowing you're having a good time too. And I know the kids are going to want to look at every square inch of World of Disney. So it's fine. Go. He goes. We head to World of Disney, which is, of course, super, super crowded. Penny wants to look at every inch of the store. Engage wants to look at specific things. So he has his phone and I tell him, okay, it's fine to stay in the store. And the girls and I looked around. She latched onto this Doug from Up Loungefly, but she could never really pull the trigger on anything. And I knew it was on Shop Disney. So she looked at something that I was like, there's literally a Labor Day sale happening right now and you can get it for 35% off. And the Doug one was not on Shop Disney. So she was saying, oh, I should get it. And I'm like, if you want it, you should. And honestly, I think you should buy something with your souvenir money that is special to you, not cheap. Because a lot of people, she's a bargain hunter. And I think she would have bought several cheap things and not loved them versus something that she would love and look back on. She waited, which ends up being an issue later. And we headed out. Gage met us outside and we went to Basin. And by that point, my feet just hurt so bad. There were so many crowds. It was so hot. Jared had texted me while I was in World of Disney to ask if he could have another beer because he'd made friends with a couple that was sitting there, which is a big deal. Because if you've ever seen that meme where they say, like, my husband and I are an introvert and an extrovert, I have been sitting quietly on this plane and my husband's going to be in someone's wedding. That's us, but I'm the husband. I'm the one that would be in someone's wedding. And he's the one that would just not speak to anyone. So he made friends with this couple and they were DVC members and they were talking to him about that. And he was getting ready to leave after his second beer. And they were like, will you stay and have one more drink with us? We'll buy you a drink. They did. They bought him like, I think it's like a Guinness with a shot of something in it.
He could take the bus, but he could take the bus back, right?
He could. So I was like, you know what? It's fine. I'm so slow moving with my feet right now. And he is not. He's very agile. And his stride alone is like 2 of mine because we're a foot difference in height. He'll catch up to us on the way out. Worst case scenario, I sit in the car and Cece naps because she had not had a nap yet. And she was reaching, we've been out all day. I'm really tired point. We start heading towards that. And Gage says, I really wanted to stop at the Coca-Cola store. That's the only place that I really wanted to get a souvenir, which is hilarious to me because Disney, but the Coca-Cola store is where I wanted to get a souvenir. And I was feeling a lot of mom guilt. And this is a common theme in my life and also this trip. So I said, okay, let's just head towards there because we're parked near the Coca-Cola store. So it'll be fine. And God love him. He's wearing the diaper bag. He's pushing the stroller. He's taking all of the weight off of me because he's very motivated. So we get to the Coca-Cola store and I'm like, fine, let's go. It's very tight in there. There's 2 floors you can shop on and then the rooftop. We get up to the rooftop because I remember that he really wanted to try all of the flavors of soda from the world. And he spent the better part of last year learning the countries and the flags and the maps and everything. So he's very a nerd about travel and global everything. So I said, okay, it's fine. Like we'll go up and we'll sit and we'll have these drinks and it's great. The line was about 1,000 people long, but there were tables available. So what we did was I sat with Cece at the table. You could see the line from our table. So Penny stood in the line and Gage perused the shops. He took a little bit longer than we thought because the Magic Band reader on the second floor where he wanted to shop wasn't working. He had to go down to the first floor to check out. And by this point, Jared had said goodbye to his new friends and met us at the rooftop bar. And Penny had just gotten to the front of the line so I could help her order. He could stay with Cece at our table. It was just perfect timing. There was a breeze. The sun was going down. It was starting to get cooler. So we ordered the flight of the floats, which is American sodas with ice cream in them, and then the flight of the international sodas. So we had all of the floats while Gage was finishing checking out. And then we had the drinks. And I have some amazing pictures and videos of Cece trying Beverly. Mm-hmm. And that one really, it's not the front of that taste awful. It's the aftertaste. Burns your mouth. It almost physically hurts.
They had Beverly at the Coca-Cola rooftop?
They did? Yeah, they had everything that was at Club Cool and some.
Okay, because it's been a little while since I've been there, but it wasn't there last time I was.
Yeah, so it was really fun. And a really affordable thing to do, especially if we were at Disney Springs on a day when it's not very busy. I think it was like $12 for all of them. And it comes with like little cups. So we would just like pour into everybody's cup and then move on. And if you just really couldn't stomach it, you just pour it back in the starter cup. But that was great. And when we left, we headed back to the Grand Floridian because so far we had not watched any fireworks with the kids. So we thought we're checking out the next day. We need to load up the van some tonight because we had an 8 a.m. at the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. There was no way that we would have time to get back and pack up before 11, which was checkout time. So I didn't want to take dirty clothes to the Riviera because they were clothes we weren't going to wear again. So I just wanted to be able to pack them into the van and leave them there. So I threw a load of clothes into the washer, and this is where the night starts to go downhill. The Grand Floridian, I would pick it 100 times over, except for the laundry. So Big Pine Key, unlike most DVC buildings, where you have some 1 and 2 bedrooms that have their own washer and dryer, Big Pine Key is all studios. So everyone is using this one laundry room. There are 2 washers and 2 dryers. And one of the dryers was out of commission. So I had already started washing my clothes when this man comes in and gets his clothes out of the dryer. And he says, oh, there were tons of wet clothes on top of the washer. And he goes, oh, that's a woman who's waiting to use the dryers. I assume he's texting someone while he does it. I assume he had gotten her number or something and was informing her like, hey, my clothes are out of the dryer. You can use it. So we watch the fireworks and it's just the most magical moment. There's a cool breeze on the water. We're having this time with our kids and it's still, we haven't even gone to the Riviera yet. We haven't done 3 of the parks. There's so much magic left to happen. And our experience so far had been wonderful. So Jared takes the kids up to the room, starts getting them ready for bed. And I go to put the clothes in the dryer. And this is when the woman has come to put her clothes in the dryer. But apparently she had 2 loads. And she was like, it's going to be a while because this dryer is taking about an hour and a half to dry a load of clothes. And I have 2 loads. And I said, is there any way you could put all your clothes in there together? It wasn't that many clothes. No, there's no way. It's like, go back at the Jared. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. My feet are killing me. I really need rest before we change hotels and we have another rope drop day and the clothes are soaked. So it's not like I can just put them in the van because they're going to mildew. It's hot outside. It's not if we were staying at the Grand that next day and I could have just left them in our room wet. It's not ideal, but the AC would have kept them fine. So he says, okay, if she's not cleared out by the time we're done loading the van, then I will walk them over to the DVC building to dry them because they were in the washer. So what I do is I go down and I put them in a clean bag and bring them up to our room because I didn't want to just leave them in the washer in case someone needed the washer, which good luck to them. But I bring them up. And then at this point, I'm just like, babe, I know that you don't want to spend the money, but we are calling Bell Services to get our stuff because he had to park at the DVC building that day. So it was very far from Big Pine Key. And we got the coolest bellhop. He was amazing. His name was John. He'd been working for Disney for 42 years. He had started as a character. He was the original Pete in the Electric Parade that rode on Pete's Dragon because he's shorter. And he was Mickey Mouse, and he was so sweet. And he's just telling me, and he'd had a 10-year break from Disney during which he was a jockey. Like, that's such a cool guy.
He did all the roles that smaller people can do.
Yes. He was so cool. And he was like, when it was my time to renew my contract, they said, do you want to be a character? And he goes, no, I want to do something else. And they told him about the Grand. And he said, probably the first 10 years I worked here, they said, he's not going to last. He's too small. So I've been proving myself since then. He was just, again, amazing cast member that's been there forever. So he comes with his little golf cart. He takes all of our stuff down. He drives Jared and I, because Gage is doing homework, girls are asleep. He drives Jared and I to the van, which is at the DVC lot. And he's, I can get you a closer. So he then drives us over, like Jared follows in the van. He drives us over, finds a spot in the resort parking and waits for Jared to get there with the van, parks, helps us load the van, and then says, if you need anything else, let me know. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was an amazing experience. We should load more tonight so that we have less to do tomorrow, because I'm going to be waiting for these clothes to dry. This lady's laundry is still in the dryer, and it is still her first load. And by this point, it's like 11:30. We load it again, and finally I resign, and I tell Jared, I'm like, I don't want to stay up and wait for the clothes to dry. Let's throw them in the dryer first thing in the morning when we're getting ready and packing the last of the stuff. And then we'll just shove them in a bag clean, leave them in the van. They'll be the last thing that we load. So we do one more trip with John, and we've gotten it down to where it's just our park stuff, our clothes for the next day, and this clean laundry. And our cold stuff. And this is another pitfall of Big Pine Key. It only has the resort cooler. So what we were doing was we were taking, I'd heard this recommendation, quart-sized Ziploc bags with ice in them and just packed it into the fridge to act as a cooler. But the problem with that was that they were leaking. So we ended up just putting it all back into our cooler, because after that first day, we never took the cooler back to the park. We were bringing a bag of like dry snacks and then our water bottles, and it was fine. And I had done a grocery delivery when we got there with Amazon, which was also fine. But the person who dropped it off, her English was very bad. And so on the phone, she was like, you don't need this? You don't need it? I was like, no, I do. And I pulled from like high school English. I'm like, necesita, yes, sí. But she did end up leaving it. We got our groceries, which was great. It was like bottled water and Gatorades and stuff. And we used all of those pretty much. But we had to repack that ice that morning in the cooler and put that stuff in the van as well. And so I had put the clothes in the dryer. I go to check, and I think someone had opened the dryer to see if my clothes were dry and then not restarted it. Yeah. We quickly make the decision that I'm going to take the girls to the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. Jared and Gage are going to stay and wait for the clothes in the dryer, shove them in a bag, and then try to get there for any part of rope drop, and they can ride whatever they want. The girls and I head out. I get a call from Jared as I'm just outside of Big Pine Key, and he says, oh, do you need this bag with these dresses? Yes, the dresses for the boutique. So Gage runs them down, and we're just booking it. We get their security. We get it over there, and they're directing you, and they take you behind the castle. And this was one of those moments that will live in my head forever. It was amazing. And Penny is 10 now, and Cece is 5. And just watching them like huddle together and pick their hairstyles, and then watching them put their clothes on. And, you know, the mirror does like the magical thing, and watching them get their hair done. And they both had their own stylist. And I was really grateful because Penny her ponytails are probably 3 inches in diameter. She's very thick hair. I'm Brazilian. She definitely has like mixed race, mixed ethnicity, thickness of her hair. And I have it, but I have thinner hair, so it's easier to deal with. And they had a Black stylist that was able to do her hair. And she just did far and beyond what I thought they were going to be able to do with how thick her hair is. And they finish up. And that was great. There was a photographer that came in. I think he got a little sloppy towards the end because some of the pictures are blurry, but mostly they were great pictures. And again, it was just convenient because you can be in the moment instead of just trying to take a million pictures. Mm-hmm. And they're looking at themselves and they announce it. And as we're walking up, Penny looks at me and goes, this is the most beautiful I've felt in my whole life. Mm-hmm. It was so sweet. So at that point, the boys had made it to the Magic Kingdom and had ridden Space Mountain, and then met us at Cinderella's Royal Table, because that's where we had breakfast reservations. And that was a great experience. We were seated not at the window. We were seated towards the window where the princesses walk out. So we got to see their little intro dances really up close. It was a little bit time consuming. I think we were there probably an hour. The food was very mediocre. This is one where I feel like I definitely have had better food at local restaurants than there and for the price. But you get to knock a lot of princesses off at once. And you get that time in the castle. So it's really special. And they're in these fancy dresses and everyone's referring to them as princess. And it's a whole vibe. So we get finished, do a quick bathroom break. Again, getting back to clean bathrooms. The bathrooms on the landing between the stairwell, very dirty. The companion bathroom as you walk in, very clean. So we had just managed to catch that companion bathroom on the way up. So then when we saw the landing bathrooms were gross, we just went right back to it. We left, and I'm going to pull out my notes at this point because my memory has been wild. Okay. So we did, before Cinderella's Royal Table, we did castle pictures. I took the girls to the front. We had a photo pass photographer that we caught, did them there. And then we also, after Cinderella's Royal Table, went to Sir Mickey's. And while we were at Sir Mickey's, the boys went and did something, and I cannot remember what they went to do. But the girls and I did Sir Mickey's. And while we were in Sir Mickey's, which was a great experience, there was almost no line. The photographers were fantastic. They enjoyed it fully, and we have really beautiful pictures. But when we came out, Peter Pan was just there, wandering around. And he was so fun and full of Peter Pan energy. He did this whole thing where he grabbed these dads with beards and they did a pirate test to see if they were lost boys. And then he had the crowd help remediate them. So that was really cool. And at that point, I had done a DAS pass while we were sitting in the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. I'd done a DAS for Seven Dwarfs. And pretty much every ride that I say from here on out will have had a DAS return time unless they say otherwise. So then we rode Seven Dwarfs again. So fun, so funny in their dresses to see them on that. We got a LeFou brew, which was very not delicious, but the kids shared it. They had fun with that. We went over to Journey of the Little Mermaid. Is that what it is? Okay. And loved that. Cece loves the villains. On her birthday at the Magic Kingdom, instead of a princess dress, she wore her Ursula dress. So she was very psyched to see Ursula in her full glory because she's big in that ride. And then we went over to the Barnstormer, and my son and I get a little bit of motion sickness. So Jared took the girls on that. And that's actually a pretty rough coaster from what they were saying. It's very jerky. Cece had a bigger issue with that than she did with Seven Dwarfs. So yeah. And then Gage and I actually did the splash pad while they were in there because we were quite hot. We did the Dumbo play area. A lot of the play area was closed off. I think they might be working on a little bit of it, or it had been damaged or something, but it was really cute. I didn't realize how much of it is interactive. So you touch things and then fireworks go off, and it was really cute. It was so cute to see the girls in these big poofy dresses, holding them out and walking very regally to go on a slide. It was adorable. And then after that, we rode Dumbo and sunscreened just outside of Dumbo because it was very hot, and we regrouped at that point. And the girls changed out of their princess dresses. So we made it several hours in the heat with them in their dresses, but I had brought kind of back the princessy, more comfortable dresses. And we had a DAS pre-select for Tiana and Rapunzel. So we went and met Tiana and Rapunzel. And then I had booked Winnie the Pooh, and we rode Winnie the Pooh. Then we went to the Cheshire Cafe, and Penny got a smoothie. My husband and I got cold brews, and Cece got a cattail. She was very excited. She loves Alice in Wonderland, and she calls the Cheshire Cat the Charcat. So she kept calling it the Char Cafe, which was very adorable. And then my husband rode the teacups with the girls because, again, motion sickness. And while they were there, Gage, who I had not bought a bubble wand for, played with the bubble wand. And it was the most wonderful thing to see my 13-year-old just having a good time with this Ariel bubble. And I happened to catch a cast member who was a PhotoPass photographer and got them to snap a couple pictures of it. Because if I'd held my phone up, he would have noticed. But someone with a camera that's just in the wild. So that was really precious. And after that, we had a DAS pre-select for Enchanted Tales with Belle. This ended up being so much cooler than I thought. I knew that they involved kids. I didn't realize that they literally reenact Beauty and the Beast with kids. And they give you a chance for roles. So they'll say, who here has like the best shiver? So Penny was Maurice and Cece was the Beast. And she's 42 inches tall, 5-year-old girl, and she was the Beast because she has a very loud roar. Mm-hmm. That was the cutest experience. She delivered. She's a performer. So she was like, so loud. And at one point when we left that, a family walked up to us and they said, that's the best part of our day all day. Thank you so much. Because she was such a vibe. Mm-hmm. So that was great. We boated back to the Grand Floridian and, we did not boat back to the Grand Floridian. That was weird. We went over to Frontierland and we caught the parade. And I had brought a blanket because I brought like a picnic foldable blanket that could hang from my stroller. And we didn't even need a seat. It was like the sidewalk and we put it down and we sat and we were beside Miss Hawaii of all people. She was like wearing her sash because they'd had a competition. And my son later was like, can you believe we met Miss Hawaii? And
I didn't realize they would wear them in theme parks.
And they'd had a competition at Disney, I think, recently. That's what she was saying. And she said this was her consolation prize because she didn't win. So she took herself to Disney for the first time. She was like, I wish I was part of your family. We're like, we'll adopt you. You can sit on our blanket with us. But then we rode Big Thunder Mountain and everybody was just tired. And while we were at the parade, it was 4:00 and we'd finally it was after 4 a little bit. We got notice that our room at the Riviera was ready. So we were so poorly packed into the van that Jared and Gage actually had to take the stroller and do the bus to Hollywood Studios and then Skyline to the Riviera because they could not fit in the van. So the girls and I took it over. We checked in and again, should have used bell services, did not, and took all of our stuff up, which was hard and exhausting. And at this point, we're questioning our plan because the plan was the extra magic hours our extended evening hours at Epcot because it was on Monday. But we were so tired. So Jared took a shower and regrouped. We all changed clothes and we'd wanted to get some food booths for dinner, but everybody was just starving and I wasn't sure what there would be for Cece because she's very picky. So we went down to Premio Piatto and Jared and I shared the vegetarian like couscous thing. And then the kids had meals and we skylined over to Epcot. We got there probably 45 minutes before fireworks. And as soon as we got there, I had done the DAS for Remy. So we rode Remy, which was super fun. And we actually take that back. We signed up for Remy. And while we waited the DAS return time period, we went to a couple food and wine booths. So at Morocco, we had the pistachio cake, the chicken kebab, and the cider and the bread service, which were all wonderful. That was an overall really great booth. In Japan, we had the chicken bun and the beer. That was my favorite beer of the whole festival. I wish I could have bought a growler of that to take back. It was so good.
That's when our team went in July and I couldn't go because I had surgery. That's their number one pick. Was that beer in Japan.
Oh my gosh.
I looked it up online. Can I buy it so that we can have it when the next time we're to get together? But it's a Florida brewery, I think.
So it said brew hub. And I want to say someone was telling me that they brew it at Epcot.
I don't know about that, but I do think it's in Florida for sure.
It could have just been somebody saying something. So then we went to Greece and had the grilled cheese and the gyro. And by that point, we could ride Remy. So we went and rode Remy. My feet are throbbing. We've spent an entire day at Magic Kingdom. We'd been up till 2 a.m. doing the packing up. And Cece fell asleep after Remy. So I think on all of our minds, we were like, we do not need to ride any more rides or do anything else. We just need to go back to the room and sleep because we had a park day the next day. I had my heart on riding Guardians, and in the chaos of getting to the room, we had missed the virtual queue. It had filled up. I thought, I'm just going to find a blue umbrella. I'm going to explain and maybe some magic can happen. So we walk and it's far from Remy.
Yeah, you said your feet hurt and I'm like, oh no, it's so far away.
It's so far. But we did it very slowly. We did it. And Cece's asleep in the stroller. And I didn't think she could ride Guardians. I thought it was 44 inches, but it's 42. So we get there and none of the blue umbrellas are open. So I get all the way up to the ride and the guy's, oh, there's a blue umbrella like way over here. You could talk to somebody. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my feet hurt so bad. I don't know if I can walk that far. And he's like, what's the issue? And I'm like, I missed the virtual queue and we wanted to ride. And he's like, oh, you want to ride? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I'll let you ride. And I was like, okay. And like, we were going to do rider swap because my husband is here. Would he still get to ride? And he's like, have him find me. And I'm like, well, will you be here by the time I get through the ride? He's, I don't know, but these guys will be fine too. And I was like, I don't want to get to ride and him not get to ride. So we wake Cece up, hoping that she can ride Guardians. And she can, and he lets all of us through, at least at the front. They said she could. They're like, they'll re-measure her inside. So we get all the way through and we're in the pre-show area where the lady's going to talk on the screen. And there's this older gentleman there and he was starting a conversation. And we were like, yeah, we're all pretty dead and in grumpy, tired moods. And he goes, you're going to be in such a good mood when you get off this ride. And this is the reason I come to Disney. So that was like really good. Also, the air conditioning in there is like next level cold. It's amazing. So we were already feeling like more perked up. We get through and Cece can ride. She's tall enough. And by this point, she's woken up because one, the air conditioning's a little bit of a shock. And two, I don't know how they do that. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but in the second room, you know what I'm talking about. It's so cool. Just trying to figure out the mechanics. I'm sure I could Google it, but I don't want to ruin it. Mm-hmm. So then we get up there and we're getting on the ride. She's tall enough they let her ride. And I had totally forgotten that you get a song at all because of the excitement of getting on the ride, the fact that Cece could ride. And then I knew it shot backward. So I was just mentally preparing her. I had my hand on her and I'd said, buddy, it's going to go backwards. And it shoots backwards and it's Everybody Wants to Rule the World, which was the song that I wanted. So chill and this amazing vibe. And it's so great. And even if you've watched a ride there on that video, it cannot encompass it because it's such a dark ride. Mm-hmm. It feels otherworldly. So it's so cool. And we get off. And I didn't even realize my 13-year-old, he has that Tears for Fears song on his playlist. So it was like this bonding moment. We both love this song and it was this great experience. And on the ride, I was sure Cece was going to be traumatized because I'm like, what? And she's on screaming. And I'm like, this poor kid is traumatized. And we get off and she goes, can we ride that again?
See, so people argue with us all the time as we rank the thrill rides. But the reason that we put that one under some other rides is the kids like it more.
And it's smooth. I suffer from terrible motion sickness. And that one, no issue. Remy, I can't even open my eyes because I get so sick.
Yep. Yes.
Same. It's so smooth and wonderful. I did find Bonine is the same active ingredient as the non-drowsy Dramamine, and it worked wonders. I did not suffer with motion sickness on this trip like I usually do. So we round the corner from Guardians and we see these little boys asking like, could we ride again? And the lady's like, how many times have you ridden? And they're like, once. And she's like, you can ride twice. So we like walk up and we say, can you ride again? And she was like, yes. So we got to ride Guardians back to back. And we didn't even have a virtual queue. And my husband did not understand what a big moment that is. And I'm like, this is so good. So we ride it again and we're like in the front this time. And we get Disco Inferno. And it is true. It depends on what song you get as to what the ride experience is. And it also depends on where you are in the cars. Mm-hmm. Because we did end up riding it another time later. And that experience was totally different from riding in the front. Mm-hmm. Needless to say, the night was great. Jared took the kids ahead of me to get them going on baths and bedtime because I was just moving very slowly at that point. And that was the end of that night. It was just spectacular. So the next day was Hollywood Studios and we were really tired. So again, did not rope drop. Actually got there, I think an hour after park opening. Immediately had to do a stop into the baby care center because we had left our baby wipes at the room. They have all of that for sale there. That was really great. There was actually a vending machine with them. So that was really wonderful. And we headed right to Galaxy's Edge with it. So then I had a DAS return time for Millennium Falcon. So we headed to Galaxy's Edge and we did a couple shops. Again, everybody was just the heat and we were tired and it was piling up and I was slow moving. And I think the kids were getting a little bit frustrated at how slow moving mom was. Not the girls, but my son, because he's a teenager and he's like, I want to go and explore. So we stop and Cece got a shoulder buddy of,
Mhm.
it starts with a P. You know what I'm talking about? I can't think of the Galaxy's Edge critter that it is, but she named her Rose, and Rose went with us for all of the rest of our vacation. She was amazing. So we loved that. We stopped at Docking Bay 7 and got moof juice. And my husband and I shared the vegan option, and Cece had mac and cheese. And then Gage, I did a pickup order for, oh no, I'm getting the restaurants confused. We stopped at one, and then he walked back over, I think, to Docking Bay 7 and got the Ronto wrap that I had ordered for him to pick up. The restaurant we went to, you could sit down inside and it was like air conditioned. Maybe
Docking Bay 7 is the one you sat down in, probably.
Okay. So then maybe it was Ronto Roasters that he picked up.
Which is right next to it.
Yes. And then while we sat there, Jared picked up a blue milk for Cece, which to me tasted like Fruit Loop milk. It was not bad, but I wouldn't seek it out. The vegan option, though, at Docking Bay 7, that might have been some of the best food I had at Disney. That was spectacular. It was so good. When we came out, we saw some stormtroopers. We went to Millennium Falcon and rode it, and then took a couple pictures in Galaxy's Edge with whatever PhotoPass photographers we could find that didn't have super long lines. Because even though the parks weren't very crowded, the PhotoPass photographers, the good ones, I think, that were taking multiple shots, the lines would be very long. And it's standing in the full sun. There's no shade on most of those. So from Millennium Falcon, we went through to Toy Story Land. We had a pre-selection for alien swirling saucers. And we had a pre-selection for Slinky Dog. The Slinky Dog was down for most of the day. So I had gotten a notice that we got like an anytime return pass. And it was still down when we came through. So we rode Alien Swirling. I did not. Jared and the kids did because I would have puked. It is intense. And then we rode Toy Story Mania all together. And we booked it to our DAS return time for Disney planned. No one talks about lightning lanes and DAS return times really for shows, but I found that it was spectacular. You get to enter before everybody. You get better seating. It's less stressful just across the board. It was really great. So we did the planned dance. All three of my kids loved it and got involved. We sent Jared, Penny, and Gage to use that anytime pass at the Tower of Terror, while Cece and I met Doc and Vampirina and Fancy Nancy at the meet and greet outside of the Disney Junior space. She was jumping up and down. She was so excited. They spent a lot of time with her. I think we waited for Fancy Nancy the longest because she had a break right before, but even the breaks are like 10 minutes. They're very little. And then, I'm sorry, they didn't ride Tower of Terror. They rode Rock and Roller Coaster because she's not tall enough for Rock and Roller Coaster. And while they were there, that anytime pass did give them trouble. I think because it was a DAS anytime pass.
That was my next question, because the DAS is tied to her.
So it's tied to Penny, though, who was with them.
Oh, I thought it was your youngest daughter.
No,
it's your
my
second
little daughter.
Okay, so she was there.
She was there, but they really struggled to be able to use it. They did end up honoring it because he could show on the My Disney Experience app where I had screenshot it, but it was no longer in the My Disney Experience app. And they later realized because the DAS pre-select is a 1 hour window, that anytime return pass is only able to be used in that 1 hour window.
Oh, I wouldn't
so a little bit
have guessed that.
Than a lightning lane. Yeah. So that is something to consider if that happens. And while they were still at Rock and Roller Coaster, we met Olaf. And then right beside Olaf is that little movie, that Mickey and Minnie movie. Mm-hmm. So they met us there for that movie. We watched the movie, took some pictures at the Potato Land thing. I find the new Mickey Mouse almost Ren and Stimpy level stupid. I really don't like it. When I think of Mickey, I think of Happy and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. But if you watch the original Mickeys, they were like that. I just think I've been conditioned from years of Disney Junior to not picture Mickey Mouse like that. But my kids love it.
And it's a whole different voice person behind that version.
It's a whole different person. He was on your podcast, wasn't he?
The one who does the regular Mickey was on the podcast.
The new one, yes. So I did it with them and they loved the photo ops afterwards. They were really cute. We went from there to Tower of Terror. And again, that was a DAS return time. I was really glad we had done a DAS return time for that. I think the standby was like 35, 45 minutes. And there's no way Penny would have been able to wait that long. And then we did the DAS return time for the Frozen sing-along. And that was so fun. I knew that it was comedies. Jared and Gage, I don't think were excited to go, and then loved it. It was so funny. And they had a droid building experience at 6:00. And so as soon as that ended, they booked it to the droid building because that ended pretty much at 6. So you have that little grace period, and they weren't that far, especially since they didn't have to wait for me with my blistered feet to follow them.
Mm-hmm.
And they went to droid building. And while they were doing droid building, the girls and I just looked in some shops. I think we did a bathroom break. It was nothing substantial, but something cute did happen for them. While Gage was playing with his droid outside, there's that little play pad. And the play pad is right beside where a lot of the characters will post up. Rey will just be up there, or Chewie will be over there. And so they had come out, Rey and Chewie, and he didn't notice. He was playing with a droid. And I guess Chewie, I have a picture of Chewie just looking over at him. And he still hasn't noticed that there's like an 8-foot tall Wookiee that's staring at him. And my husband goes, Gage, look. And he looks up and he's like, whoa. So that was really cute. And I love that they do play along. Cece had Grogu on her shirt. She had her little shoulder pet. And at one point, a stormtrooper told her, like, keep an eye on that. It looks untrustworthy. But it was just a really cute situation. And then we rode Rise of the Resistance for a second time. And again, crazy. We could have done probably standby, but we had the DAS return time. I think standby max, so like 35 minutes that day. It just was not very busy. Then we went by the droid store again because while he was playing with his droid a second time, the leg popped off. It needs to be re-screwed in a lot is what they said. They get adjusted often. And we went ahead and bought a personality chip while we were there. When we came out, we ran into Kylo Ren with the stormtroopers, which was pretty neat. And then we had a 9:40 for Oga's, or 8:40 for Oga's. And the park, originally it was 9:40. I had rescheduled earlier that day because I knew we wouldn't want to stay that late, and we'd already watched Fantasmic. So we went, and if you are someone who has sensory processing issues, Oga's is not the place for you. And Penny and I both have sensory processing issues. So we got there and it was just, we were feeling panicky. It's a shared experience. So you're like at a table with people you don't know, and it's very loud. It's very bar-like, like very sticky floors. It was not the place I wanted to be at 9:00 with my girls. So I asked the waiter if we would get it dinged for some of us leaving, and he said no. So Jared and Gage actually stayed, and the girls and I ran pretty much to Mickey and Minnie, and we rode it one more time before it closed. And we were like second to last train cars. And then when we came out, we ran into that little show on the Chinese theater. I had heard about that, but I didn't know it was still happening. That's still one of Cece's favorite memories of the whole trip, was running into that. I think because it was low pressure and it wasn't hard to get a good spot. We had come right out of the Chinese theater. We stood by our stroller, and it was right there, all the projections and everything. So that was really great. We headed out of the park. We stopped at a couple shops, and the Skyliner line was about 1,000 people deep. So we just sat on the bench and talked about stuff because my feet hurt. And I thought, if we have to wait, we might as well just sit and wait. And then when the line got down, we headed back to the hotel. And the boys were not far behind us. But that was it. We were very tired heading into that Wednesday. And that Wednesday was our Animal Kingdom day. So we had planned to get to Animal Kingdom for rope drop. And this becomes a theme. We didn't make it for another rope drop after Magic Kingdom. The plan was rope drop and then break in the middle of the day and then go back. That's a great plan. But once you've not rope drop, then you end up feeling we just got here. We can't take a middle of the day break. And you end up staying the whole day. And then you're tired and you don't want to rope drop the next day. So really key to just take that break. We bused from the Riviera. That was a short bus ride. The Riviera had lots of buses. And circling back to the Riviera, I don't think I would stay there again. It does not have the Disney magic. It definitely, a lot of the reviews, in my opinion, are right. It feels any other hotel. It's beautiful and it's well appointed.
So many people do love it, though, that I always feel like I'm missing something, because I feel similar to you, which is I don't love it. I would rather visit. Like you can go to Topolino's. That you can go have their quick service. I'd rather stay at Caribbean Beach and just walk over there.
And maybe it is because it was a split stay and we were coming from this magical experience at the Grand. And someone said when they redo the lobby at the Grand, it will have desks like the Riviera has. But if you've never been to the Riviera, but you've been to like a Verizon or an AT&T, it's the same desk where people are all standing around and they begrudgingly help you fix your phone. That's how it feels checking into the Riviera. They begrudgingly help you, and it's that same desk setup. We did run into a few really nice cast members. The people running the pin boards were really great. The lady working the DVC desk was spectacular. She gave my girls Riviera paintings that were like on cardboard and then stickers for their height. So she measured them in stickers and gave them to them. And that was great. But hotel is really new. We were on the third floor of that hotel as well. And they were working on the room across from her. So it could be that room had a sewage issue. But when you walked into our hallway, it smelled like a bathroom. And we found, like I said before, many bugs in our room. Not enough that it was enough to change rooms, but we would find them. And I never found any in my stay at the Grand. And then also whoever chose the paint for those pull-down beds, it looks like white with coffee stains on it. Both my husband and I were like, is that dirty? No, it's just the paint. It's just weird. And then they were pressure washing the building while we were there. So you couldn't have anything on your balconies. Depending on where you walked, you might get splashed with water. At one point, we were like trying to relax outside of the building. And a guy's just like walking around, probably rightfully spraying for bugs. But to me, don't do that at 11 a.m. when all your guests are walking in and out and there's little kids walking around. Do that either in the evening or in the morning. It really did not feel, and when we get to the checkout part, you'll understand what I mean. None of the cast members felt on the level of the Grand cast members. And so that might be part of it too, honestly. But circling back to Animal Kingdom, we arrived, we sunscreened, again, got caught in, there wasn't a single security line that we didn't get pulled from. So got caught in security. And then we did a DAS submission for the safari, but it was like a 15-minute wait. So by the time we walked back there, we were going to get to ride. Penny is very into the movie Up. So we stopped and got our wilderness packs and did 2 of those stands. But it was hot. And when you're 10 and 5, if you're not in the right headspace for it, it can be boring. My husband and I were really enjoying it, but I could tell the girls were just like antsy and the Gage was antsy. I think the problem a lot of times when we got to places is that you've already done transportation, you've done security, sometimes twice, you are ready to do something active. And we're very active people. We headed back. We did get the African corn outside of the safari, which lives up to the hype, but it's really salty, like quite salty. And then we ate some of the snacks we brought, rode the safari, which was so fun. But Penny had a little bit of a meltdown because everything was on the other side of the tram until towards the end, which it was all on her side. But for the beginning, she's like, I can't see anything. So my husband's 6'1", so he's beside her. And she's trying to lean. And then the last half of it, there was probably a 2-year-old behind us. I would guess that's probably his age. And this poor guy, he was just probably an hour past nap time, needed food. And he loudly cried for the majority of the safari. I would definitely ride it again just to experience it in a different way, but it was still super cool. And the guides are so knowledgeable. We actually learned a lot. From there, we did lunch at Flame Tree Barbecue and a bathroom break. And Kevin was just outside of that. So the girls and I ran to meet Kevin, and Kevin was running away, like he was going for a break. And I turn around and my girls had followed Kevin like almost into Asia. And I'm panicking because Penny had a phone on her most of the day, but it was not on her at that moment. So I find them and then I'm shaken. And then they're disappointed that they didn't meet Kevin. And all we've done is ride one ride where a baby screamed and eaten since we've gotten there. So everybody's having a meltdown. So we just sit and the kids have a moment where they have a good little cry. And then we moved on. And that's the thing is you have to pivot. If you need a thing to pivot with, I strongly recommend, while they still have it, It's Tough to Be a Bug. because that will just totally make you forget anything that was upsetting you before.
That could upset you in a totally different way.
In a different way, yeah. So that reframed everybody's minds. And then we had a pre-select for Cali River Rapid. I don't think I would ride that again. It was just like every other river ride. Actually, I think we got less wet and we were really wanting to get wet because it was very hot. The only person that didn't want to get wet was Cece. And of course, she was on the side that like got very wet. She could ride Tower of Terror fine, but if a ride had water that squirted on Pirates when you go down and it's a little splash, not a fan. She just didn't like getting wet on rides, which is funny. After we got off, we finally met Kevin. We were able to catch her and we met her. That was fun. We got a fun little selfie. Oh, when we walked into Animal Kingdom on Discovery Island, we ran into Divine, which was on my list of things I wanted to see. She is so beautiful and gracious and very ethereal. She just doesn't seem of this world, which was really cool. Yes, it's a total testament to her acting too, because she just doesn't feel human, even though you can see her human face despite it being painted green. Mm-hmm. We grabbed frozen Cokes, and my husband and I discovered that pre-mixed frozen Jack and Coke might be the best invention ever. It should be available at every theme park ever because it's delicious and so refreshing. And so we took those in to watch Feathered Friends in Flight, which was amazing. I don't know if you're familiar with the show Wild Kratts, but the Kratt brothers, the hold that they had on our family for a solid 5 years with Gage, these two guys reminded us of them so much. It was so fun. We got their autographs afterwards. After that, Gage, Jared, and Penny went to ride Everest, and Cece and I headed to Dino Land, and we did Triceratops Spin, and then everybody met back up at the Boneyard, and they all ran around. And then we all went to Dino Bites and shared, because it was enormous, but it was the one snack Cece wanted from our YouTube videos, the giant ice cream sandwich with the Haagen-Dazs ice cream, which is an improvement over all the Edie's ice cream locations. And then we rode Dinosaur, which I love. And the kids were very meh about it. They were like, oh, it's fine. I think because they've at this point already ridden Guardians and Rise, and it just does not compare to those. And then we raced. And when I say raced, I mean, we raced to Africa to board the Express to get to the animation experience on Rafiki's Planet Watch.
I'm feeling pain for your feet.
Yes, I at this point had already popped the blisters that existed and bandaged them and put like antibacterial on them, but new blisters had formed because my feet are naturally trying to avoid the pain. So I'm getting blisters in places I've never had blisters. Gage had one blister at that point and Penny had a hot spot. So we definitely did some foot care after this day. We did the animation experience and we drew Pumbaa, which was again so fun. And Cece even drew it. They are spectacular illustrators and they give great verbal instructions, but they also are on a big screen. I wish that we could have stayed on Rafiki's Planet Watch longer to explore more. But if we were going to make it to Festival of the Lion King, we had to make the next train and we had to run from there to Festival of the Lion King, which we did. I literally sprinted because I know from all the reviews I've read, that is one show that they lock the doors because they come onto the floor. Mm-hmm. So we get there and I explain to the lady working that we're DAS users and it would be really helpful to be near an exit for the bathroom. And so she's, okay, go on that side. So we went on that side and he seated us in the front row.
Oh,
which was really cool because at the end, they pull some kids on and they pulled the girls. So they got to do like instruments and they got to be with the giant people on the stilts of the giraffe and they did the little dance. It was just a really spectacular experience. And when we left, Jared went to get the stroller and the girls and I, because my feet again, we were just trying to limit how much mom was walking at that point. Jared went to get the stroller and then we went to Pandora and the boys actually went a different way to Pandora. So we were late meeting them because we were on the bridge from Africa to Pandora and they had gone around and I had to call them because I'm like, they're taking a really and we had a DAS return time for Flight of Passage. So my husband is a huge Avatar fan. Usually you would swap adult for adult to stay with the kid that can't ride. We actually left Gage with her so that Jared could be the one that rode twice because we knew like it was a big deal for him. So Gage and Cece just hung out outside of the ride. We rode, and then everyone collectively went to Navi River Journey, and we rode Navi River Journey, and my girls loved that ride. It is just so beautiful. It really is. And it feels like you're in Avatar. It's great. I will say there was a guy in front of us the first time we rode it with his phone out, which sort of ruins the magic. And I'm here to tell everybody your phone videos are not going to be as good as the ones you could just watch on YouTube that already exist. So if you want to relive it on YouTube. It's not like in the olden days when YouTube didn't exist and you were like watching on your video camera. So
I think people should only take pictures of like the personal moments in their group, not the rides or the fireworks.
Yes,
because it's like there are way higher quality versions, as you said, but pictures that matter are like, what does your child's face look like watching the fireworks?
Yes. Actually, when you guys asked for pictures, I was like, there's not a lot of backgrounds in these pictures. So I'm like zoomed in on their excitement.
Yeah.
So then we did it this way. Jared and Gage went to ride Flight of Passage because Gage had not ridden it. And then the girls and I did Navi River Journey one more time. And while we were on the ride, I did a mobile order pickup for Satuli Canteen because everyone had said, oh, it's delicious. And we had not had dinner at this point, and it's almost 7. The ride ended like 2 minutes after the park closed, but I had already said, I'm here. So my food was ready, and we ran there and they let us in. It was the last mobile order to be picked up. And some people were still eating inside, but they were shutting stuff down. So the boys were taking a little longer. Flight of Passage is a pretty long ride, even if you're not waiting in the line. The pre-shows and everything are long. And Jared said that he and Gage got a pre-show that we didn't get, where they decontaminate you or something when you come out. We didn't get that when we rode. So theirs is even longer than ours. And I didn't want to be rude, so I'd asked for to-go boxes. I'm just going to box everything up and we could eat outside of Satuli Canteen because there's tables there. But they made it there just in time, and the girl was like, it's fine, you guys go ahead and eat, because we were not needing anything they were doing. And we ate. It was 7. Epcot closed, or it was like 7:15 by the time we were done. Epcot was going to close at 9. And I had been watching, because our experience with Guardians was so great, the virtual queue the last couple of days, and it had never closed. It was never full. So by the time we're walking out of Animal Kingdom, the virtual queue's still open. So we're like, oh, we could just bus to Epcot, ride Guardians, and then take the International Gateway back over. The virtual queue closes, even if it's not full, an hour before the park closes.
Oh.
While we're waiting for the Epcot bus, while we're on the Epcot bus, the virtual queue closes, and you can't join until you're at Epcot. So we were already on the bus to Epcot. And at that point, if we'd gotten off the bus, we'd have had to go on through security and walked all the way to the International Gateway, which we did not want to do. And we had an Epcot day coming up. So if I'd known that we were going to miss a lot of stuff in Epcot, which is what happened, we probably could have just done some stuff in the front of the park. But we didn't know that. And we had plans to go to the Magic Kingdom extended evening hours that night with the big kids. We were not going to do that. So I was like, how do we lessen this walk? So we get to Epcot, and then we take the bus from Epcot to Hollywood Studios. And then we rode the Skyliner to the Riviera. So it's a really long way to get back to the room. We get back to the room, engage his mom. I'm really panicked about school. I don't want to go to extended evening hours. I need to work on my schoolwork. So we canceled the sitter we had planned for Cece, and he actually stayed at the room with Cece. And Cece went to bed. She was so tired. She immediately fell asleep, and he worked on his homework, and he felt a lot better after that night. They had sent him more notes in class of new stuff they'd gone over. So he'd been really concerned about that. So he was pretty much caught up. And we took Penny to Magic Kingdom. We got a Tron virtual queue the first time while we were waiting for Flight of Passage. And that was the first thing we rode when we got there. We converted it to a lightning lane with the Dash Pass, which was great because the line for that virtual queue was hundreds of people long. It would have been a couple hour wait. And we had gotten there probably 30 minutes after the extended evening hours had started. So it would have been our whole extended evening hours. So we went, rode Tron. That was my first time riding. It was super fun. Then we rode she and Jared rode the Astro Orbiter. Once I got up there, I realized that would have made me really sick. When they got off, we rode Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Haunted Mansion. And then we went back and slept because we were dead And we knew at that point there was absolutely no way. It was like 1:00 by the time we got back to the room that we were rope dropping at Epcot the next day. And the Epcot day is really where things fell apart. Yeah, we didn't get there until about 10:30 at Epcot. And that was the morning that we had done a couple things in the lawn of the Riviera. And then the guy had come around spraying for bugs. And we were like, yeah, let's just head to the park. Because we didn't really want to be out there while he was doing it with like little kids. So when we got there, we were at that store at the International Gateway. And Daisy was there in a little chef costume. So we met Daisy. We went in and we bought food and wine gift card and then the Remy maps. And in retrospect, I wish I had not bought the Remy maps. I wish I had bought the passport because I think the passports would have been a better souvenir. And we did a lot of the Kid Kat stops anyway. Whereas the Remy almost felt like a chore after a while because he's actually hard to find in crowds in the heat. Mm-hmm. So that is my thing. I would not have done that. I actually ended up getting on my phone and just cheating and finding out where he was in all the countries and even knowing where to look. It was still hard because I didn't know what any of these buildings were called. So we did that. And then later we had a lot of breakdowns this day. And one of them was Cece wanting to find the Remy's. That was the only thing she wanted to do. My husband and I engaged, this was the day he was looking forward to most with the country. So the World Showcase and food was a big one for him. We got ice cream in France when we were there. Gage got the brioche ice cream sandwich thing, which was really cool. It was very delicious. Then we stopped in the fragrance shop and a gift shop and we rode Remy. And when I was on Remy, I realized I had not taken my motion sickness medicine. So I felt a little rough afterwards. I knowingly closed my eyes for most of the ride so that I wouldn't get sicker. Mm-hmm. So we stopped, did motion sickness meds. And then my plan was always start in Canada. But when you're coming in at the International Gateway and you're walking past the stuff anyway, it's so hard. We had a virtual queue for Guardians and we were slowly making our way there. So we did UK and we did a store there. We got pressed pennies. They did the Kid Kat stop with the postcards. But I really, again, wish we had done the passport. But once you've missed one, you don't really want to buy it. And they're a little pricier than Remy. We met Alice, which is on Cece's list because she loves Alice in Wonderland. We went to Canada and did the postcards in Kid Kat. They were doing construction on the waterfall. So it took away from the majesty of Canada's waterfall. My husband got a beer at some point between Canada and the front of the park, but I don't remember where. And it was one that we can get at home. It was not a specialty beer. And then we rode Guardians and we got One Way or Another. And we rode in the back of the ride. And I recommend the back of the ride because you see so much more. There was a whole virtual scene that we had missed at the front of the ride. It was when they actually fight the big guy. When you're towards the front, you don't really see that much. Maybe if you're looking around, but it's stimuli overload. So we didn't notice that until the end. We went over to Test Track and we rode Test Track. And then the girls were very hungry. So I headed to Connections because the mobile order that I had placed, I thought you could get it to go, but it's dining in. And so I was getting a little stressed, it's already ready. It was not because you prepare it when you get there, but I was confused. So I went ahead, Jared stayed with the kids. And at that point, they were just wanting to explore that area after Test Track. And he was crowds and stimuli overload. And Epcot was really busy this day. And I'm sure that's relative, but compared to the rest of our trip, it felt very busy. Mm-hmm. And also the bowls in the front of the park suck. It makes everything feel congested and it's a long walk to get to anything.
So what at the front of the park?
The walls.
Oh, walls. And yeah, they're getting ready to come down, thank God.
So we finished Test Track and I go to Connections and then they meet me. We get the girls' food and then Gage actually walks over to Coastal Eats and gets us a crab cake and he wanted to try the Oysters Rockefeller. He loved it. He thought it was great. And he brought it to Connections. And then as we were about to leave Connections, the Jaminators were there. So we got to see them and they gave the girls stickers, which is really cute. And at this point, we're we can't do any more at the front of this park because it's already getting late. I knew we wanted to meet Anna and Elsa and I wanted to do the Pearl Experience in Japan. And there was no way, I didn't know what time the Pearl Experience closed. So if you're interested in the Pearl Experience, it closes with the store. But none of the internet and no cast members could give me that information. So Jared actually later ends up walking to Japan to find out what time it closes because we were very concerned that they weren't going to get to do it. So we are like, there are walls everywhere. To get to the land, it would take ages, and it was just the face of the earth hot. Like, we walked on that little bridge from Connections to Lake Mexico, and you pass like the Odyssey, you know what I'm talking about? And the handrails are metal, and Gage touched one at one point and almost blistered. It was just so, so hot. So we ended up just going to Norway, and there was not a DAS to meet Anna and Elsa, but they were like, you can wait in line, and then your DAS holder can meet you. So I actually waited out with Penny and Gage, and Cece waited in line. And that was when Jared went down to Japan to see what time it closed. And on the way there, we had done Mexico, and we had done the Grand Fiesta tour. But the pavilion in Mexico was shoulder to shoulder people inside. So we really didn't stay to explore it all. I think because it's air conditioned and it was just so hot.
That's
outside.
exactly it. And the popularity of La Cava del Tequila. There's a lot going on in that space.
I had heard about like drunk people at Epcot, and we did later experience that, but I expected it in Mexico because of the tequila and everything. But no, everyone in there was really fine. So we finally meet Anna and Elsa. And at this point, I'm done. My husband's done. The girls have melted down. But Gage has rallied for us. And we ran into this at different times in the trip. Like, one of the kids would be rallying, which is great to see in a big kid. So he's got the diaper bag. He's got the stroller. He's standing in line to meet Anna and Elsa. He's hyping up the girls about meeting Anna and Elsa. He gets into meeting Anna and Elsa. There's a photo pass thing afterwards, and he thought that kind of stuff was lame. He's in the pictures with them. They're doing cute stuff. And that just totally revived my mood, because I was like, this is so cute and great. We leave there, and we have a DAS return time for the Frozen ride. So we ride the Frozen ride, and I didn't realize Penny wanted to ride with me. Cece had wanted to ride with her, and Gage wanted to ride with Cece. So the three of them rode, and then Jared and I rode. And she was really sad because she was like, that was my first movie, and you rode with Gage for Winnie the Pooh. So I guess check with your kids before the ride. We had really checked with everybody ahead of all the other rides. But at this point, we'd been at the park for 5 days. I figured we'd rotated enough. When we left, Jared needed a break. So I sent him to find a beer because it was just like too many people. And he hates gift shops. Like, they give him anxiety. And the girls really wanted to look around the Norway gift shop. So we stayed in the gift shop. Gage went with Jared and got food in Kenya. And then Jared got a beer in Kenya, I think. And the girls and I got their ornaments for the year from Norway because they were Frozen ornaments. And both their first movies, Penny's was Frozen 1 and Cece's first movie was Frozen 2. So it really worked out. And then we are, let's see. The girls are hot. Mom is worn down. That's what I wrote down. And Gage handles the diaper bag and stroller at this point with a positive attitude. And I said, that's the real Disney magic. That's what I put in my notes. And it's true. We did. Oh, and at this point, Penny bought a Minnie Mouse in Norway. So that was a special souvenir. She did get one special souvenir because this is our last real park day. And then we did the KitKat stop in Norway. We stopped in Germany and got an apple strudel. And we went to the caramel shop, and I felt terrible because my husband's actually been to Germany, and he saw the big clock and he was like, it's almost on the hour. And I bet the people run around the clock like they do in real Germany. And we were in the caramel shop too long to catch it. And he was like, you guys missed it. So I felt really bad about that because he's been to Munich. And then we bypassed Italy. And even in my notes, I don't know why. We just did. There wasn't a reason to stop. We were hot. We were trying to make it to Japan. We went to America, found Remy, used the bathroom, and did the KitKat stop. And then we went to Japan. We did the Pearl experience, which is so fun and special. They just make it such a spectacle. They'll teach the kids how to count down in Japanese, and they're so happy. And the store is really cool. If you have any anime or Pokemon fans, they were just having so much fun looking around. But this was where we ran into the drunk adult. It was a woman who was probably in her 50s or 60s with her friend. You could tell they'd been drinking, and the friend was FaceTiming her daughter. And I just remember her screaming at the daughter on the phone, like, your mom sips shots. Can you believe that? She sips shots. And she was so loud. And I'm recording them doing the Pearl experience because she's like behind us in line. And finally, Jared came with the stroller and just moved behind us. So the lady had to scoot back. But even in my video of it, you can hear her in the background. So just be cognizant of people if you're drinking in public is my thing. And we really did not care about fireworks anywhere. The Gage had caught a part of the fireworks when we came for the extended evening hours. and he really wanted to watch them. And he was such a positive person that day. I was like, we need to do this for him. And he'd done his homework and been stressed. So we stayed and found a great spot for fireworks. But the great spot was by Japan. And we found out from a cast member, oh, the shop that you came in at in International Gateway, it closes with the park when the fireworks start. And that's the only place you can cash in the remainder. So Jared walks all the way down with the girls to go pick out their little lunch boxes. And Gage and I stayed and waited, and we got a couple more food samples, watched the fireworks, and then we left. And the fireworks, they were good. It's a cute show. He really liked the grand finale. And as we were exiting the International Gateway, we realized that said shop was still very much open. That shop does stay open past park close, if anyone is wondering. And that was our day. We went back to the Riviera, and the next day was Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween. And we just chilled that morning. We had an 11 a.m. at Beaches and Cream. So we took the Skyliner to Epcot and then walked over to Beaches and Cream. And that was really fun. We got the mini kitchens, or Cece and Jared shared the mini kitchen sink, and the grilled cheese and tomato soup lived up to the hype. It was very good. And the kids got big desserts that they polished off. And we're going to leisurely take the Skyliner back, but there was no rain, but there was lightning in the area. So we actually took a bus from Epcot back to the Riviera, and that was cool because you go behind the scene. So you're seeing the inner workings of stuff and like where cast members park, and it was actually cool.
The bus was near the Skyliner station?
It was.
Okay, so you're not talking about going back to the front of the park. You're talking about that was their alternative.
We wouldn't have been able to. We didn't have park entrance, so I don't even know.
Oh, yeah. But so many people don't, or cast members don't tell them that the buses are right there. And so they end up trying to figure out alternate routes.
They had everybody wait at the Skyliner until the bus got there. Because I think they were a little bit hoping that the lightning would pass or something, but I know you have to wait a certain amount of time. So we took the buses back to the hotel. And at this point, I had quite a bit of laundry. But the Riviera, too, it's one of the things I loved about it the most. It is a massive, beautiful laundry room with 4 washers and pin dryers. So I was just up there like doing load after load. But it was cutting it close. And everything I'd read to meet Jack and Sally, you want to get there an hour or 2 before the 4 o'clock time to get in line. And everybody was like, get to the right. So the laundry's taking forever. The girls are not laying down for nap. And I need to get them ready. And Gage and Jared are the obvious choice to send ahead. So I send them and then finish up the laundry. And they were still there later than I thought. And I know you can get a DAS return time for Jack and Sally, but in all my DAS groups, people were still waiting in line for an hour at the DAS return point. So I didn't think that was a very viable option. They went, and this was an amazing night, but it started out terribly. So Jared texted me, and we couldn't be on the right, and we're like 60 people back on the left. And I was like, oh, there's no plate. We're going to be super late in the line. Then they get out of their line on the left and get to the right because I think they thought that's what I wanted them to do. So then they're even further back, and they get in, and it's a posted hour and 20-minute wait. I think probably it'll be an hour, maybe a little bit more. But we were arguing at that point because he was annoyed and I was annoyed. And I was like, why'd you move? You didn't say you were going to move. It was a whole thing. And in that chaos, something is left at the room. So the girls and I because we're headed to the buses at this point. So we take the bus all the way to the Magic Kingdom. And Jared, this is great. We're just about to round into this theater. It's a great time for you to meet us in line. It'll be easier. We get up to security and I realize I don't have the diaper bag. But I don't know where the diaper bag is because I thought Penny had the diaper bag and we're thinking it got left on the bus. So I run back to the bus, catch him, diaper bag's not on. The bus driver says, I'll wait for you. So Penny and I and Cece get back over and we go back to the Riviera. It's not at the bus stop. So Penny runs up to the room and it's in the room. But at this point, Jared and Gage are still in line for Jack and Sally. They're having to let people in front of them because they don't want to lose their place in line. I'm not sure if we have the diaper bag. And sometimes the diaper bag had really personal information like license and stuff in there or money. But at this time, it had the autograph books. And this was the last day of our trip. So on an emotional level, like as a mom, I was feeling like awful because I'd have to tell the kids, like, I lost your autograph books and Penny's crying and the diaper bag's in the room. And the girls and I have to wait for a bus, but I guess the bus had changed drivers because it was a different driver. So it was like a 30-minute wait. Anyway, the girls and I don't get back to the park until 4:30, 4:35. And at this point, just before you turn to get into Jack and Sally is where they are. They've let several people in front of them. There's 3 people in front of them. And Jared says, by the way, the dash line's over there and people have just been walking right in. So could have gotten there at 4 or potentially like 3:30, gotten our dash and then done it. So that was a little disappointing, but it worked out because we left the diaper bag. We meet Jack and Sally, and that is as an amazing experience as I knew it would be. Cece is obsessed with The Nightmare Before Christmas, and that was all she wanted to do. And the 3 of them were lock, shock, and barrel a couple Halloweens ago. She had made artwork for Sally 6 months ago, packed it in our Disney stuff, and we gave it to them. And Jack was like, I'll bury this for you, Sally. And then she was dressed as Zero from The Nightmare Before Christmas. So they took her over to her doghouse, and it was a really great experience. In that line, I saw a girl I recognized and I was like, where do I know her? Did she check us in? I realized that it was a YouTuber that I watched. So we got a picture with her and then we left Jack and Sally and went in, got our treat bags. Jared did a pit stop for a bathroom. And then the girls and I met them over in Tomorrowland. And we had wanted to ride the People Mover, but the People Mover had a super long line. I think it's because it's not open during the party. So I think people were like doing it. I don't know.
It is open during the party.
Is it? I know during extended evening hours it wasn't. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's what it is. People just assumed that it wasn't going to be open. But the line was so long. So we never ended up doing the People Mover. We talked to the lady at the Buzz Lightyear ride because DAS does not work. If you're just there for the party, DAS doesn't work for you till 7 when the party starts officially.
Right.
So she just lives on the ride. We rode that, which I don't think I'd ever ride that again. We did that treat stop and then we went over to the Zombie Batch. And while we were there, Gage was going to go ride the People Mover because that was really high on his list. He ended up going to the wrong line and rode the Astro Orbiter. Still had a good time, but did not ride the People Mover. And the Zombies Bash was amazing. Cece was very into the Zombies movie. She pretended to be the werewolf girl for 3 weeks straight. That was great. And actually, I was going to let Gage and Penny and Jared go ride Space Mountain while she was enjoying that. But Penny, who's 10, was having such a good time dancing at that Zombies Bash. She didn't want to go. They stayed for the whole thing, took pictures with all the characters, and then we moved on. And so I took Cece to the Disney Junior Dance Party that's in Cosmic Rays. And they went to ride Space Mountain. And I cannot more highly recommend the Disney Junior Dance Party. That is something that no one talks about. But my husband's an EDM fan. That DJ was like on it. The characters come in so frequently. Every 30 minutes, there's 2 new characters. And Powerline Max and his dancers come in. Mm-hmm. So they were dancing and singing. So we got to see them without having to see them in the parade or find a spot. Because, they're not in a big chunk of the parade. The line at Cosmic Rays for food looks long, but it's very well executed. So we were able to eat there. At one point, we were going to have to pull the girls from the dance floor. So I had gotten these drinks and I was like, let's bribe them. And so Gage had gone over to tell them he was dancing now. So the 13-year-old, the 10-year-old, and the 5-year-old are dancing. They're having so much fun. Let It Go starts playing and the whole room is just going nuts. We could have stayed in there all night. Like it was really just so redemptive after Epcot Day the day before to just do this wonderful thing together. I think we stayed for an hour. We were in there for a long time.
I think that's a great tip. And it's inside. So if you're trying to get out of the heat.
Yeah. No matter what the weather, if it's raining, it is great. And you get to dance. You're not going to get signed autographs, but it's still a different kind of interaction because I feel like sometimes you get an autograph, meet a character, and move on. They danced to Fancy Nancy and Vampirina for 20 solid minutes. It's a whole different interaction. And from there, we went over to Haunted Mansion and we saw the Evil Stepsisters on the way. We saw Tweedledee and Tweedledum and just the Mad Hatter waved at them because the lines were very long. We went over to Haunted Mansion because we wanted to see the live ghosts. Mm-hmm. So we did get to see them and that was really cool. And on the way through from seeing the ghost, we rode Pirates? Yes, I'm sorry. This is the one I didn't write down because it was so memorable. And now I'm forgetting. So we went to the overlay of Pirates. And that was not really an overlay. Like, there were live pirates outside of it. But I thought that they hid live pirates in the ride.
They used to, just not this year.
Okay. So I'm glad I didn't like fever dream that, because I thought it was making it up after they were like, we didn't notice any live pirate. So we did that. And as we were doing that, the fireworks were going. Not going, but the pre-show was starting. And I was on the fence if I wanted to see that because I knew it would be crowded. But Cece was dressed as Zero and Mickey was like talking to Zero in all the speakers. So I was like, let's go. We'll try to catch the end of it. And we caught the end of it. She got to see Jack. It was really cute. We had actually a pretty decent spot because a mom had been like really spread out and she had a bunch of diaper bags sitting there. And I just like nicely asked, could my kids watch from here? And she actually ended up moving the diaper bags. It was very sweet. So that was fine. And then as the oh, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Before we rode Pirates, between Pirates and Haunted Mansion, we saw the parade. So we stayed in Frontierland and we watched the parade. And that was wonderful. But Cece was asleep at that point, and she really wanted to see the parade. So we had to actually wake her up to see the parade. So she wasn't in a great mood until it started. And then she's villain everything. So she was very into it. She still is. I can't believe I saw the real Oogie Boogie. It's a big deal. After the parade, we caught the tail end of the fireworks because we were coming off of Pirate. And then I booked it around to get in line for Stitch because Penny was dressed as Lilo and she had still not met Stitch when we were there. And that was the one character that's left. Gage wanted to see the Pooh Bear characters in their costumes, but he'd already gotten a lot of time with them at Crystal Palace. And he was dressed as Christopher Robin for the ride. And they had a funny, or for the night, and they had a funny interaction at Space Mountain as they were giving the rules. The guy looks over and he goes, and I'm talking to you, Christopher Robin. So again, just cast member magic. I got in line for Stitch and then they met me. And by that point, my husband was not in a good mood because he just had to go through all these crowds with 3 children. And Cece was not in a great mood and she'd fallen asleep again. We did not mess with her. She didn't meet Stitch. She just stayed asleep and Gage and Penny met Stitch. And at one point in the night, we did see the Pooh characters in their costumes walking back to the thoughtful spot. It was when we were headed to Haunted Mansion, so we counted that as a win. We saw them. They were really cute. After Stitch, though, we did wake her for the Hocus Pocus Spectacular. And she had fun. She liked it a lot. And that was it. We headed out. We were all very hungry and tired.
What time do you think it was?
The Spectacular started at midnight. So it was
you were at the very end. Okay.
We were at the very last one. I think we didn't get back to the room because you best until like 12:45. I mean, at this point, my feet are like 50% blisters and we're tired. And we know that the next night we're going to be driving through the night because we're going to leave Saturday night. Saturday, we sleep in and we have breakfast at the Riviera and literally just do nothing in our room for a while. And then the kids and I made a big mistake and we left the Disney bubble. So we got in the van and we were going to go to the character warehouse. And on our way down, though, Chippendale and Daisy were in the lobby and they spent a lot of time with my kids. They were really cute. At one point, Daisy scared Gage because he was sitting in a chair and she's like right behind him. And he's like, I could feel the air was different. So I looked and Daisy's right there. There's a fun selfie from that. That was a really magical thing that they were in that lobby. Then we went to the character warehouse and we were like, we'll go to the furthest one and then we'll stop at the closer one on the way back. Everything there took longer. There were lines. I don't feel claustrophobic often. I did there. It was not enjoyable. So then we were like, are we going to stop at the second one? But Penny really wanted a lounge fly. And she was still like, I don't know if I want that Doug one. And I was like, I really don't want to go wait at Disney Springs and go to that parking again. So I should love it if she found one. So we did stop at the Vineland and it was in and out. There was nothing. There were no lounge flies or anything. And so then she's, I really want the Doug lounge fly. And I'm like, we are leaving tonight at 2 a.m. There's no way that we'll be able to make it there tomorrow. So we're going to have to stop tonight. So I go and I park and we're able to park in Lime. Engages. I'll just wait in the car with Cece if you guys are just going down there. I'm like, I don't love this plan, but I also don't want to drag her out. She'd fallen asleep in the car. And we get out of the van and Penny just breaks down. And I realized that She was hyper fixating on this dead loungefly because she didn't want to leave Disney. And I think she felt like it would make leaving feel better. The meltdown subsided and she just was like, I don't actually care that much about it. Let's go back because I want to get to do the Aventi room, which is their like arts and crafts room. And I want to swim. So we head back to the hotel and we had actually done Topolino's that morning and everybody was melting down. Like when Mickey Mouse came up to our table, all 3 of our children were in tears. Yeah, it was just like a misunderstanding. Like Penny was like, I want to get to meet Donald and Daisy first. And she thought we were like alternating who got to meet characters first. Engage with like, I don't care who we meet. And so then no one was like, they're all frozen about meeting Mickey. And then like Cece was also in tears, goes to meet Mickey. And then they all perk up. We order our food. Our waitress was wonderful and super understanding. Like they were at the point of meltdown. They weren't like screaming or anything. They were just like in tear. You know, when people look like they're about to cry. And they weren't even ordering drinks. So the waitress brings like water and pog juice and everything. She was amazing. We left her a very large tip. And Daisy comes around and Minnie comes around and then Donald comes around. And Donald makes our day. He sits in the booth with the girls. He spends 15 minutes coloring on a coloring sheet with Cece. Like spent a lot of time with us and totally made it. And so we get back to the Riviera and Penny's, I'm going to get the Donald plush of that Donald from the Riviera gift shop because that was actually meaningful. And he was a big part of our day today. So in the end, it worked out. Jared took them down to the Aventi room, which has a ton of things you can work on. And they ended up making lithographs, which was really cool. And I went and got her the Donald plush. But note to people staying at the Riviera, the bubble fluid is not for sale in their gift shop. It is at Caribbean Beach, but there was no way with all of my feet hurting that I was going to go there. I was regretting not buying more of it at the Grand Floridian because I thought they had it at every resort that sold bubble wands. They do not. And then we rushed from doing that to swim because the pool was closing at 10 now instead of 11, but it had been posted as 11. So I thought we had time. We swim. And at this point, I had left Jared in the room that day while we were at the character warehouse because he'd just been feeling not great. The night before, he'd really been not feeling great. And then he was not feeling great. And I felt like it's probably just stimuli overload and exhaustion from vacation. So he hates stores anyway. It was an easy decision. So he'd stayed and slept for 3.5 hours in the room. And I was like, that's fine because we got to drive tonight. Like he can do the first part of the driving and then I'll sleep. We swim. We did takeout orders from Primo Piano. He actually ate before us because he was just really hungry. And then I took ours back up to the room. They had messed up the order. We checked I'm here, but because we were at the pool, it was just far enough away that it had canceled the order or something. So then they not only gave us our order and refunded us our order, but they gave us a ton of stuff because Cece was like, I don't want that you ordered for me. And then they were just giving her pasta with sauce and everything. They grabbed Uncrustables out of the fridge and yogurts. And so that guy that night really was a lifesaver and amazing. And we got $100 of food for free because he was just so kind. Then we went back up to the room and I was so tired. I still had clothes in the washer. I went and put them in the dryer and I loaded. I got the kids in the shower. I washed the pool clothes because I didn't want to take cold, like wet clothes home. Jared slept. He was just not feeling well. So I got the kids in bed and then I was up until 2 a.m. when we left straight, loading the van. And this is where I think the Riviera is lacking. So the bellhop that helped me down was fine. He was really nice and chatty. There was one valet guy and he was out there on his phone the whole time I was loading. And I was like, is there any way like you could help me? And he's like, no, I can only park your car. And I was like, okay. And I was like, is there any way you can call someone to help me? And he's like, no, I can only park your car. He was like, okay. And then I'm down there for a long time because it's Tetris loading everything in. Mm-hmm. And at one point an ambulance shows up and he's got his back to the driveway where people pull in and he's on his phone and the ambulance like unloads a gurney, goes inside and he doesn't even notice that they're there. So you're talking about like cast member difference. It was a big difference. So I drove the first 2 hours and then I was just dead. I'm so tired. And so Jared drove 3 hours and then I drove the rest of the way home. And it took us longer to get back because we left later. I don't think we got back till 4. And then again, he was very sick when we got home. So I swapped him. He was positive. He immediately quarantined and then I unloaded and did all of that. And then we went down Lake Domino's afterwards. But it was a great trip. There were meltdowns and there were exhaustion, but the kids can't wait back.
Yeah. So like you had a lot of highs and lows. Knowing what you know now, what are a couple of things that you think you would have done differently with hindsight?
So my logic on our park days being all together was based on the crowd calendar, and then also based on if for some reason someone got COVID on the trip up, then it would give them time to recover. Or if someone got COVID from the parks, it would give them time to recover. And that sort of did work. Jared didn't have symptoms while we were at the parks. But I think I would have braved crowd to be able to have a rest day between all of our park days because it was just so needed. And I also think we were treating this as a once in a lifetime trip. And that amount of pressure makes you feel like you have to do everything or you have to try to maximize things. And really some of our favorite times were just at a meal or playing with a bubble wand or meeting people that worked there or swimming in the pools. It was there's so much to do even at the resort. And Jared's whole logic is why would we go all the way to Disney and pay these prices to stay at the resort the whole time? Because he's like, he could do that at any resort and not drive 13 hours to do that. But the cast members really do make the difference. I also would not have done a split stay. It was originally unavoidable because that Monday night or the Sunday night before Labor Day was not available at the Riviera. And that was my first booking. And now I wish I'd just done all of the days at the Grand because they were so great. But a split stay, even with having our car, and we could have had Bell Services take some of our stuff over, but I'd heard a lot of horror stories about lost luggage or stuff not getting there till 9 o'clock at night. I would not have done a split stay. I like to unpack one time and pack one time. I found myself on our split stay day just at and the day before, just at the prospect of packing everything up.
So you said you treated it a once in a lifetime trip, but is it that? Do you think you'll be back again?
If you ask my husband, it was a once in a lifetime trip. We had a really great time. That's not why. It's just really expensive. This trip was 10 days, deluxe resort, the park days, even with a military ticket, it was pricey. And so I would like to go back next year for Christmas. I know the crowds will be really high, but the weather will be really nice temperature wise because I'm like a polar bear. So I like it cold. I think seeing the magic of Christmas at Disney would be really cool too. And especially since we liked the Grand so much and they do it up for Christmas, that would be really neat.
But you will have the experience at the Grand that you did at the Polynesian, which is, it feels like you're walking into a mall at your own hotel.
And that's a good thing to keep in mind. I also read that there's a couple resorts like Old Key West, I think, has similar cast member as the Grand. Like all of the things that I've read about Old Key West is that's why people keep coming back. Because the rooms are big, but they're outdated. It's the cast members. They just get treated really well.
Yeah,
a lot of long-term cast members.
I feel like that would be an interesting piece of information to gather is which of the resorts have those cast members. Because like California Grill, the restaurant, one of the appeals for me is the cast members because a lot of them have been there for 10 or 20 years.
I think that is what does it. It's the people. And I'm worried that Disney's new process is more the money, which I understand it's a business, but they used to, I don't know, I never worked there, but I assume they used to treat their cast members well. And that's why they had cast members that stayed for so long and were so loyal. And I really hope that they continue to do that because that really is what makes, pin trading. I never brought it up. That was one of my kids' favorite things to do. Absolutely pin trading. Loved it so much. Yeah, they really loved pin trading. That was a highlight. So we did the board at all of the boards that we passed.
That's right.
The desks and stuff and all the gift shops. The DVC desks always had them. I had some from when I had gone to Disney many years ago. And then I ordered a random set from Amazon and they were official Disney pins, but you just didn't know what you were going to get. Like a lot of them were older and less popular, but who cares? You're trading them. So my regret there was not buying more because once the kids traded for pins they loved, they didn't want to trade again, but they still wanted to be trading pins. That was like one of Gage's highlights from the trip was pin trading. And yeah, I think Disney's gotten so where you can't be spur at the moment. that if we could have been a little more spur of the moment, it would have been a little more relaxed. And like I said, if we go back, we've done so much now. We really did do a lot. If you look at all of the things we did in all of the parks and even outside of the parks, we experienced a lot. I've listened to a lot of these trip reports, and what we got done in our days, like we did everything at Magic Kingdom. We did everything at Animal Kingdom. We did a lot. So we know what we like and we know we don't mind skipping. And so to be able to go at more leisure pace and just run into things, because a lot of the things we loved the most were the things we ran into that couldn't be planned. And yeah, I think that is just something to think about. I would have not done the Lego store so early in the day too. It was a little close to our golf reservations. I definitely would have pushed that. And I don't even know if we would ever go back to Disney Springs. It was fun, but I don't know. We're not huge shopping people. And if I could go and have probably Jared's experience with having a beer on a patio and listening to music, yes.
Yeah,
but
I was gonna say, as a person that only travels with adults, it is fun for that.
Yes. But the navigating it with the stroller and kids is not really where it's at for me.
Yeah. I hope that you do get to take your holiday trip next year. You can revisit favorite things and see all the new things that are during the holidays. Won't be so much pressure.
There's already so much new, even since we left. It's crazy how fast things happen. And we really didn't do any of the front of the park at Epcot except for Guardians and Test Track. So I would like to go and experience that.
That is a perk of Disney World trips, is that usually there's a list of things that have happened since you were there.
Yes.
So you're like, let me add that. And also, like what you just mentioned about the front of Epcot, when you're at a Skyliner resort, that is so normal to not spend much time at the front of the park.
And I had obviously never stayed at the Skyliner resorts, so I did not realize how far it is from International Gateway to the front of the park. But wow, when you have blisters on your feet, that is a hike.
Yes, I totally get it. I pictured as you were talking the paths, and I was like, well, that's a 25,000 step day that you just did with blisters on your feet.
Oh man, it took I was just like gingerly walking in the grocery store.
Yeah, that's rough. Anyway, well, I'm glad you're on the mend and that you have
your Costco mend.
Yes, you had some things to recover from there. I appreciate you taking the time to share.
Oh, thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that trip report and maybe picked up a few tips along the way. I think that will wrap up this episode of WDW Prep to Go. For more information on this episode, please be sure to check the show notes on your podcast app, or you can head to the website for the show notes and the full written version of this trip report with photos inserted at the website, wdwprepschool.com. Click on podcast at the top, scroll down to episode 378. Until next time, I will see you on the site.